Here we go. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Lee Select Board meeting. It's June 7th, 7 o'clock. Everybody's here. Our first order of business are the minutes for May 17th, 2022.
Mr. Chairman, I believe that Cindy caught one issue when I was talking to her today. At the very end, the motion to adjourn, instead of 8:30, should read 8:47. And that was the only thing I think that I noticed down about it. Do you have anything? Otherwise, I'd make a motion to accept the minutes with that one amendment.
I'll second it.
In that case, if there's no further discussion, I would, seeing none, all those in favor of approval of the minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, we have no public hearings, and that brings us to public comment. Now, I'd just like to let everybody know before we go any further, this is the time, if anybody's got anything to say, let's take a chance, we'll all take it in turn as we go here, but this is the time for you to say whatever you'd like. So I think Kathy was jumping to get up here, so maybe you want to start, but if there's anybody else, feel free at this point.
She's on the agenda too, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll be hearing from you later too, I think. But.
Yes. But I just want to start with congratulating our graduates from both St. Mary's School and the Lee School District for graduation 2022, and all our sports teams, and we're still in it with tennis. It's just so exciting for the town of Lee, something so positive that our young people are bringing to us, our schools, and our town. Now for my comments. The Lee Youth Commission.
Kathy's floor, please, thank you.
Can we move the mic closer?
Well, there's no actual sound.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I can't hear you.
Okay. The Lee Youth Commission will be winding down the Wednesday after-school program tomorrow, and we'll be talking more about community-oriented family events in the coming months and for the next school year. A huge thank you to Janet Warner, our co-chair, for organizing this event. Free Wi-Fi is all set at the athletic field. A huge thank you to Mike Klein from our Youth Commission for doing the installation. A sign is posted with information for login. We are patiently awaiting the new play structures to be built, and will soon be looking for volunteers to spread safety surfacing at the playgrounds. Please stay tuned. In addition, the Lee Youth Commission will be discussing two options for more programs at our playgrounds. One is a fitness wellness area, and the other is a nature playground. The commission will be working with Chris Britton and Peter Hoffman, respectively, on these options. The conversation will continue with the community center ideas with the direction of the select board. Reservations for the use of the pavilion at the athletic field are filling up quickly, and you need to reserve a spot. Please call the DPW 243-5520 to reserve a space. And finally, South Berkshire Kids is at the Lee Athletic Field every Wednesday until August from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. This is a parent-child free-based playground program for children ages 2 to 5. Thank you.
Thank you.
You have a couple.
Yeah, come on up. And I ask that you identify yourself for us all and.
I am. So my name is Thad Kubis. I'm the new Executive Director of the Lee Chamber of Commerce. I wanted to introduce myself to the people in the town, and I'm looking for a very exciting and very profitable summer and winter season. Thank you.
My name is Valerie Blum, and I'm here as a representative from the Lee Greener Gateway Committee. And I'm here to ask for the Select Board's approval of our committee to apply for a grant for the next fiscal year from the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection. It has been awarding Sustainable Materials Recovery Program municipal grant funds since at least 2010 to help reduce waste by improving local recycling, composting, reuse, and household hazardous waste diversion. This year's applications are due on June 15th. We think that Lee has participated in this grant program from the beginning, securing $750 per year, which we have used for various purposes. Chris has already signed the master agreement and helped us meet the minimum eligibility requirements related to recycling and purchasing. The Mass DEP changed the grant program this year using a point system, enabling all communities that actively promote waste reduction to obtain even larger grants than the $750. We here in Lee are trying to get at least double what we have in the past and hope that next year we'll qualify for even more. So some examples of the kinds of things that we that might count towards those extra points, which they haven't been doing up until this year, is the adoption and enforcement by the Tri-Town Health Department of up-to-date waste hauler regulations, selling compost bins, in case anybody doesn't know, we have big compost bins and little ones, at a greatly reduced price. We participate in the Regional Household Hazardous Waste Collaborative and host every so often. Are having adopted and now enforcing bylaws to reduce the use of single-use plastic bags and polystyrene drink and food containers. Helps us with those points. Engaging in multiple outreach and education activities such as having the active Greener Gateway Committee, having our schools participate in the Green Team, having an exhibit promoting waste reduction, recycling at community events, having displays promoting reuse, such as our Green Holidays efforts that we had at the post office and library, and providing zero waste stations for big events like Founders Weekend and the most recent Tool Insurance's Memorial Day barbecue. We would greatly appreciate the Select Board's approval for us to apply for this grant. Thank you.
Thanks, Valerie. So I think we do have this on our agenda for later
Oh, I
today.
did.
But no, I appreciate your comments, and I think we might have a couple questions, but if anybody has anything you'd like to.
I'm so sorry, I didn't know it
By
was
all means,
specifically
no,
on the
this is what
agenda.
this is for, but yeah.
So are we taking questions now, or are we going to public comment?
I think we
now,
just
or
keep
which would you like to
go
do?
through public comment at this point.
Okay, we'll come back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the agenda originally, we had Peter on here about
Right,
Valerie's
yeah.
representing the
yeah,
committee
yeah.
instead.
Yeah. I want to get to Tim, had his hand up.
Yep.
If Tim, you want to come up.
If I may, I.
You wanna
I'm
stay
here
back
to
there?
talk About the rest of, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm probably, if the mic doesn't work, it's gonna be as loud here.
Oh,
as it
that's
is.
for people at home.
On TV, I got it, yeah. All right, well, I feel the need tonight to come to talk about this and the way, we're at this real juncture right now, okay? That we're going into federal court to try to stop the dump, to try to stop the cleanup of the river, because the cleanup of the river is sad. It's never going to recover. The numbers don't jive. I've told some of these guys around about this, but it doesn't work, okay? River will be contaminated forever under this cleanup plan. And I needed to come tonight because, as you know, 2 weeks ago, I was very concerned about the potential issue of Patty going back to rest of river, okay? And, I need to say that through this whole process, the Rest of River Committee has treated HRI and pretty much all the citizens that have come to all the EPA meetings that like we are just terrible people. That's the way they treat us. You know, we're terribly, you know, we're just so bad people for trying to save our town. You know, but I want to tell you about what's really going on with Rest of the River, folks. And we found some good information at HRI this morning, and I want to talk about it a little bit. Okay? The Rest of River Committee is planning on suing the Housatonic River Initiative. The group that has been fighting for 30 years to get this right. And that's what the Rest of River Commission, that all you people, Patty, and, you know, there's a lot of blame to go around this town about this Rest of River Commission, but they have been fighting us all along, and they intend to oppose us. And Patty wants to get obviously she wants to be reappointed because she wants to be part of that. And I found out they knew about this months ago. Okay? Months ago. Then I find out in reading some Berkshire Regional, I didn't bring it. What did I do with my phone? I left it in the car. Right? Oh, she's got it for me. Oh, okay. So this morning we get on the Berkshire Regional Planning Commission's meetings, which have always been very elusive and trying to get their minutes on time and stuff like that. Well, here they are, though. And here they are talking about, the only thing I can quite get out of it is they want to raid the money that the town's got to use for legal fees to sue the Housatonic River Initiative. I don't make this stuff up, folks. I mean, this is like, you just can't make this stuff up. It's beyond comprehension. What is wrong with the people?
Yeah, I would just ask that you direct your comments.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
I'm
it's fine. Yeah,
okay, these are my people. Okay,
I know they are. I know they are.
I feel obligated to, let them know I care about them once in a while.
They can hear you.
And this is an article. You're citing an article in it.
No, I'm about to read.
This
well,
is their
here it
meeting
is,
posting?
and you guys can look at it at any point in time. Let's see if I can make it bigger. It's very hard for me to see here, but the bottom line is the Rest of River Committee has been working on this plan for quite a long time. This is not new, folks. They have known about this. It's in their minutes. And we at HRI, we're extremely pissed off, folks. We've been working for 30 years to get the right cleanup on the river, and now we find out that the people that the towns picked to be the stars of the PCB cleanup, what they have done is not right. It really is not right. The town's been part of that. Some people in this town. And I just want to say that we should watch where we're going. And I'm going to say it one more time, is that HRI, we know more about everything PCB than anybody does in this county. And probably even, we had to teach EPA stuff over the years. I can get into that some night on another story. But let me tell you, EPA doesn't always know what they're doing. They're a federal agency, and they blow things extremely many times. And I'm just saying that here we are at a point where, there's some things that HRI is fighting this. Now, the advantage of you guys maybe being on our side of things is that we have pro bono lawyers, okay? And the Boston team happens to be some of the best on the East Coast. We have these people because of my connections to them 25 years ago, believe it or not, but they're the top of the people. And they can't believe the corruption they're seeing going on out here. They just can't believe it. They said they've never seen anything like this, okay? Now, there are some plans. One, we would love to be able to go to federal court without having these people come after us with amicus briefs. But the bottom line is there's a chance for us to kind of turn a new leaf and work together. But it's going to take some courage of you two guys, for sure. Bob already has the courage. if we would work together, we might be able to stop this thing, okay? There's another plan floating around which nobody knows about yet, which has great potential to possibly stomp this thing too, okay? And I'm not letting anything out about it yet, but sooner or later you'll find out about it, and we hope it could possibly help us. We don't know for sure because everything's a little bit of a crapshoot that you do, but you know, we roll the dice and we see what happens, and there's a chance it could help us big time in this fight. Another different thing. I'm just saying that if you guys could come to the final conclusion, which you've never done before, that working with HRI would be a positive thing, we could, you know, help you with resources, we can tell you what you need. You know, I mean, we are very bright people at HRI. And my board of directors, I call them the PhDs of PCBs. They are not your general board of director person where they take, you know, you get money out of them. These guys have studied PCBs with me for 25 years. And we have such a resource, and it all comes down to the bottom line here is, do we want to dump in this town? That's what it comes down to. It really comes down to that. And you know what? I'm an old-time businessman in the town of Lee, and I cannot imagine that this dump will not come back to haunt us for the rest of the town's life. And I can tell you right now, there are other communities that took a deal like this to let the PCB dump in their town, and then years later, the dump is full, the money stops flowing. One of them is called Model City out near Buffalo. And man, it's a bad news thing going on out there. And that'll happen to us, for sure. And the other thing that worries about it is there's big news out of Boston, and I'll leave you with this. I might have said this 2 weeks ago, but there's big news out of Boston that GE's on the hook for a site in the ocean. Yeah. And evidently in that deal, they say, we need a place to put it. And they just bought, you know, the piece of land next, you know, more land than they originally said they had. They originally said they had enough land, then they bought the, you know, the campground next to it. So the land, I'm very worried about the Leahy property and stuff like that. These people, like at you know, a lot of these sites, they don't stop. They keep building onto the dump and building onto the dump. Once they got a place to dump, they love it. And we will become that. And I think, I have a fear that ocean dumping spoils. And the deal is GE has to dump them on property that they own. Right. Well, guess what property they own?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, sure. I was going to borrow it for a couple of weeks.
Make a couple long-distance phone calls.
Yeah.
Get back to you.
So I'm Ann Langless. I live in District 2. Just to follow up some stuff with Tim about HRI, I brought with me some information specifically that HRI has worked on over
Thank you.
decades.
Awesome.
Didn't know if you would like one too, Chris.
Oh, sure. Thank you. One for the
Have enough to
record.
share.
Yeah. You brought copies for everyone, even
Sure
Cindy. That's
Good thinking. Good thinking.
Which I can give to you guys in a minute. I would also like to be able to read the Berkshire Regional Planning, their minutes that HRI found this morning on the website, because I think people should be informed. I think that's really important.
sure. I have no problem with that.
It's short, it won't take too long. As long as I can pull it up. Matusco announced the committee in executive session had taken the following action. On a motion made by R. Wood, seconded by C. Rembold, and approved a 5-0 on roll call vote, the Rest of River Municipal Committee adopted the following. Pursuant to the intergovernmental agreement, the Selectboard and Rest of River Municipal Committee, ROR Committee, authorized the establishment of an administrative ROR monetarily fund of $1.5 million to be funded following receipt of the funds in the escrow account established pursuant to the February 2020 escrow agreement, to pay for all legal, consulting, or other expenses, fees, or costs incurred by the Rest of River Committee in the administrative review and legal work related to any revised permit issued by the EPA for the remedial work in the Housatonic River, and that the Berkshire Regional Planning Commission, BRPC, be authorized as a fiscal agent for the said Rest of River Monetary Fund, the Rest of River Municipal Committee, or its successor, and authorized to administer the monetary fund. So I think people should just really keep an eye on that. Again, a lot of people just don't know about what happens unless they actually go to the meetings. And I keep wanting to turn around to everybody, though I'm not supposed to. But it's just so important that even if you have the information yourself, call your neighbor up. Let them know what's happening in whatever meetings that are coming up, so that you can get your neighborhood involved. Because it's not just about one specific neighborhood on the north side of Lee. It's about our entire community, and that we need to make better quality of life choices long-term for our community. And I know that Patty was here 2 weeks ago requesting to remain on the Rest of River committee, and Janice had possibly suggested Bob Jones be appointed. And I would like to be able to second that motion and express that I too would like to see Bob be that representative person for the community. I do feel that Patty has lost trust in the community because she was part of signing the Rest of River agreement behind closed doors. And Bob has proven time and time again that he is very inclusive of our community, wants everybody to know what's going on at all times when it's able to happen. And part of your platform, Gordon, was that you wanted to be able to, one of the first things was to pull together a community-wide public situation so that all the Lee residents, and we could have a collective conversation about getting a real feel how people are feeling about this. The PCB dump that's proposed for over near Woods Pond. So my question is, have you had any other conversations with the rest of the board to put anything in play yet? And if you could talk about that.
Actually, it's on our agenda for tonight because I can't talk to them outside of our posted meeting, so of course I have not talked to them. But yeah, we announced last time that we'd be talking, and it would be on the agenda. It is on the agenda. I have my list of items here, so you'll be here to hear it.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Oh, Andy, step out of here.
Monica Ryan. Okay. Yeah. Monica Ryan, 165 Laurel Street. So I want to talk on two different topics, and I'll try and be brief, and I have some questions as well. So I'm going to just shift gears right now, and then I'm going to come back to this topic. But the Eagle Mill, it's not on the agenda tonight, so I'd like to ask that it be put on the next agenda. And the questions that I have on that are, where the heck are we on that project? Because it looks despicable. Everyone can see how bad it looks. And it's been way too many years for this project. We supplied them, I think, with water and sewer. We put in lines for them as a town. We met them at, on our side of the commitment. And I feel like the developer needs to step up and let us know what's going on, what's holding it up, and what does the town have invested? So this is all for the next meeting, but what has the town invested so far besides the water lines? But are we giving them, I assume we're going to be giving them TIF grants probably, because they'll be creating new jobs eventually there. But what have we done so far? Or grant work, what have we co-signed for them, we or the state? Because it's out there, but nothing's happening, and I'm very upset about it, and so are many of my neighbors. There was a chat online from my neighbor down the road, and everyone hopped on. I was like, yeah, what's going on? So I'm bringing it to you guys.
Yeah.
And you don't have to answer it right now.
Yeah,
but
no, I would think we could all speak to that if we wanted to, but.
Little info.
Yeah.
I know, I was at the last planning board meeting and they also kind of spoke to this too, because I think there is a lot of frustration. I know that I share in your sentiment for sure.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the construction fences went up months ago and
Right.
nothing's happened. So
Yeah.
I think that, maybe Chris, we can reach out to Jeff or who's the housing authority.
Yeah,
there.
so there's two different people involved in there, and I actually had a conversation with one of the people involved a couple of weeks ago, and the latest, which actually came to this board not too long ago, was about the funding gap. So they did receive, I believe, was around 16 million from Department of Housing and Community Development before, and that was all done before COVID, but the construction costs have increased and they're trying to fill
Right.
that gap.
Right.
What we did provide for water was through a state grant,
Yeah.
through the
So we didn't pay for it, that came through a state grant?
state grant.
Very
right,
good,
yeah.
very good.
We have committed money to the project,
Were those-
which I have some information for later in my report, but we will
Those
be
are ARPA
receiving,
funds, right?
right, we'll be receiving, well, not ARPA, well, there's a couple different things, but yeah.
One was an ARPA, we committed, I think, $100,000 a few months ago out of our ARPA funds to help them bridge the gap, as Chris was saying, with their escalation of costs.
But only to be released once a building permit was issued,
Okay.
which is not gonna be until they have torn the buildings down and actually started renovation.
So there's still a long
So we
time.
haven't given them anything
Right.
yet, nor will we until
Right.
they've actually.
And they're not going to, so there, it sounds like there's, a few things going on here that may be slowing it down, but, I mean, most of all, I feel like, as in any project, yeah, there's going to be additional costs. Excuse me, sorry. And there's going to be additional costs, but, everyone's undergoing that, and I don't see why the town should have to, but I just feel like, we've been waiting so long. The guy who owns the project is Jeffrey Cohen, right? Is he the owner still of
So
that
there's-
property?
There's
Or a
also
group?
another, so he is doing part of it.
Okay.
And I believe, I don't want to misquote the name, but there's another person that's doing the housing part with Berkshire Housing now as well.
Okay.
I don't have his name in front of me,
Okay.
but.
All right, well, just so we know, this is Jeffrey Jeffrey Cohen, married to the daughter of the Sackler family of Purdue Pharma. We all know that. So to me, it's like, okay, he doesn't have money? Okay. A little strange, but, so I just feel insulted that it's, I just feel like I'm nervous about this whole project even ever
Yeah.
coming to pass, because they're not really, you do a project, you should have the funding, much earlier, before COVID, it should have been started. To now say everything's increased, well, that's like with the rest of the world. So that's my piece on it, but I'd like to get like an official report.
Sure.
Go ahead, Gordon.
Well, I was just gonna say, before we leave this topic,
Yeah.
the last planning board meeting that I was at, this very issue came up, and my understanding was they were reaching out to Mr. Cohen to have him show up at the next planning board meeting to discuss this, which would be Monday night.
Okay, all
So
right.
I'm just saying, whether you're in person or you're online, we could get an update on Monday, and then
Very
we
good.
could also ask him to come in too.
Yeah.
If for some reason it postpones and he doesn't get there, but I haven't seen their agenda. I don't think it's posted yet, so I'm not
Okay.
sure if he's really there.
Let's wait and see if he goes
They
there. and we
definitely
may
asked him to
learn more
come in
there.
because they're as frustrated as everybody else.
Okay,
I just wanted to add too, on the town's portion that we were talking about, the town does have to allot a portion towards the project, and the reason why, it's not like we're just giving them money.
Right.
But by doing that project, we receive state funds, and a portion of that goes towards it. So we're right now, should be receiving about $384,000. Part of it just for doing the zoning, and part of it after the
Okay.
building permits are issued. So the expectation is the town gives part of that back to
Okay.
the project.
Fair enough.
So it's
Fair
not
enough.
coming out of
Yeah, it's not.
taxes or anything like
Okay.
that. I just wanted to clarify that.
but we've
So-
done everything we can in a timely manner as the town of Lee on our part, I would imagine, as we try to.
Do you want to say anything,
So,
Bob?
thank you.
No, but I've been looking forward to an update
Yeah.
on that as well. We're overdue.
And
The last I heard, they were going to actually start work
Yeah,
right
it's
after the first of the year, and it's 6
Right.
months later.
I was just gonna mention that, because I
Yeah.
think my recollection is when we had them in here and we committed that $100,000, they said, they were still waiting on one letter from the state, I think it's the DEP or or to get going, but the gap that they needed to close wasn't going to stop them from getting the project started, and that they would at some point
Okay. Yeah.
this spring was my recollection. I
Well,
can't remember if it was.
Okay.
I know that's what I'm getting. That's
I know,
what I'm
we all
getting
know.
at is
Yeah, we all
that
know.
here
Yeah.
where
Okay.
it's June. But I think it's technically still spring
No?
for a few months.
June 21st.
21st.
Yeah,
First day of summer.
we're there, right? Yeah, and there's still no progress being made up there.
And what
so
I've been
yeah.
looking for from them is an actual timeline. Okay, this day.
Yeah.
If not this, within this range, then this, and then final, cut the ribbon date. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Real serious stuff now.
And coming from the private sector, construction projects don't typically go like this. But
Right.
this is kind of a municipal
Right.
thing, so there's
Yeah.
a lot of difference.
Okay, well then
Sorta.
you're on the case, and the planning board's on the case. We'll wait and see what happens there. And if we don't get all of our answers there, we'll be back here.
And
We
to tell
may
you
ask
the
them to
truth,
come
I'd
here.
like to see them switch over and prioritize the housing
Yeah,
before
Yeah.
they even
Oh,
worry
yeah.
about the mill itself.
Sure.
'Cause
Housing
there's
is
some extra housing
crucial.
that's going in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love to see them prioritize that and get something in the ground now. Yeah.
so just shifting back, and I'll just be brief about the other topic, and that is, and it's on the agenda tonight too, but yes, I think Bob Jones would be an excellent designee for the town of Lee, for the Rest of River Committee. Period. End of story on that one. Bob, you'd be
Okay.
great. And, but I have something here that I've been reading. I've read it like 5 times, and I highlight so much of it. So, but I'm not gonna read the whole thing, I'm just gonna read maybe the first paragraph, and I think I'm gonna come to every select board meeting and continue to read it to you. So it's from David D. Simone, PhD, from Petersburg, New York, and this was acquired through HRI and through Tim Gray. And I can't remember his credentials, Gail may know his credentials, but this guy's like an award-winning, Tim, what's his credentials? David, what has he done? He's won an award, didn't he? Or was he, who did he work for? The EPA, or did he work for?
Well, he's he's written 3/4 of the maps with other geologists
Right.
about New England.
Okay.
He teaches at like 3 or 4 universities.
He gets his credentials in here, yeah. I'll
And
put them- yeah.
you all get a laugh out of this. EPA Region 1, which is the one we're tangling with right now, gave this geologist an award for his outstanding geology work. Okay?
So good credentials.
And
thank
then we
you.
hired him
Yeah.
to do a report for us, and he calls it the worst place you could ever possibly pick. He says, I will teach this.
I'm gonna tell you about it.
Okay,
Right.
okay, you said, I'm sorry.
I'm gonna give him, okay, I'm gonna give him the first paragraph and then
It's just, unbelievable.
his bona fides here. So he did a report on the geological evaluation of the proposed Woods Pond landfill site in Lee, Massachusetts. So this guy knows his stuff. The introduction, I reviewed documents and evaluated the surfacal and bedrock geology for the proposed PCB landfill site north of Willow Hill Road and south of Woods Pond, town of Lee, Mass. My work scope was to address these parameters, the nature and stratigraphy of glacial sediments and how this impacts infiltration and lateral movement of groundwater beneath the PCB landfill site. Does the landfill site have geological characteristics that weigh against using the site as a PCB landfill? How likely is it that there is natural sediment overlying bedrock beneath the sand and gravel shown on surfacal maps that is low in permeability, hydraulic conductivity, and can inhibit infiltration of leachate from inevitable leaks? Double composite liners and leachate collection systems, like they're suggesting, should be expected to fail. And I wanted to see what might happen to leachate that infiltrated the site below the liners. So he goes on into great detail, and I'll read it more in a future meeting, but there's several things that I come across where they are the worst natural sediments to use for a PCB landfill because they allow easy migration of contaminants in the subsurface. There's a nice sentence. I mean, it just made me sit up and say, what are we doing? Okay, so another, and I'll continue reading this at the next meeting. But I'd like to make an announcement to the Rest of River Committee and all the other 4 other towns involved in this. And I directed at you, Great Barrington, Stockbridge, Sheffield, and who is it, Lennox? Hey, can't we all get along? Can't we all get along and come to a righteous ending on this and make sure that the PCBs that have just been told that this is the worst site to put it be taken and removed correctly from the river completely, or as much as possible, much more than they're proposing, and taken out of the Berkshires completely? Why sink town of Lee? Please, can't we all get along and find a way to amass our strength and our resources and our legal resources and use them for the good and not for evil, to go against HRI? Why would you do that? They have great resources. They've done so much research. And this Rest of River Committee has just been around for a few years. I mean, they don't have research like we do, like Tim has done. He's devoted his life to this. So please, at your next meeting that you have at your executive session behind closed doors that none of us can see, and I understand it has to be done because it's a negotiation, I'm just telling you, when that door gets closed, please consider this comment, that we all need to live with this. If it's left in the Berkshires anywhere, Lee or anywhere, we need to know that it's going to affect the entire Berkshires and beyond. It's wrong to place PCBs in our town.
Still in public comment. Anyone can come up. Janice?
Yes.
Identify yourself, please.
I forgot my name. It's been a long day. Janice Brame, and I'm here again to say would love to have Bob Jones on that committee. Also, that powwow guy, the attorney there, I don't understand how he can represent 5 towns when you can't even go to a real estate closing and have the same attorney. He wasn't looking out for us. He wasn't looking out for our town. And also, you all have to think about the dump trucks for the next 15 years going through this town. I'm getting more calls. Should I sell my house? Should I sell my house? I says, do you love to live in Lee? I do. I says, hold out to the end. Hold out to the end. I don't want to make money off people selling their house because it's a dump. You know, it's just, Gordon, you said you're going to try to help us. I'm praying you do. And I know Bob's trying to help us. Sean, I hope you turn around and try to help us. This is going to wreck our town. It really is going to wreck our town. If this goes in, you know, I'm going to be a rich lady because I'm going to be selling a lot of real estate, and then I'm going to sell mine and get out of here too. But they're going to take a lot less for their houses. You know, they're going to take a lot less. And who's going to pay the difference in that? The $25 million that GE gave? You know? And we could use, you know, we got to fight this. That's all I'm saying, and I'm hoping you make the right decision. Bob's a very intelligent man. He doesn't get emotional like I do. He takes it all in. He speaks well. He's smart, and he works well with Tim and HRI. We've all been working together. It all started out on my back porch. How are we going to fight this? Bob Jones came down. Tim came down. How are we going to fight this? And I'll fight this to my grave. I will. I'm going to fight for everybody in this town because it's not right. What happened is not right. And Cindy, you're lucky you moved out. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm only going to stay for a few minutes. My name is Peg Byron. I live at 42 Park Street in Lee. And I grew up in Pittsfield. And Mr. Welch left Pittsfield and kicked the can down the road, I will say. And the town that I love and have lived in for many years is getting that can kicked down the road. I want us all to heal the town because I feel it's important. And I was watching this meeting on TV, and I won't be here all night. And I also have had many people ask me about the Eagle Mill. I'm on the planning board. I brought it up at the last meeting. I don't know if maybe there's a new agenda and Mr. Cohen is coming. But the fence now is starting to almost intrude on the sidewalk. And we've had him come back a few times, and it's always sort of been the same. He's waiting for this, he's waiting for that. I hope it goes through. I would love to see the Eagle Mill
done. I went to the opening. I was very, very encouraged. But no progress has been made at this point in time. The planning board did the SGOG. We did all that. It took hours and hours and hours. It has been done. The water line has been down. So I really hope the selectmen and all of us can really get some final movement on this mill, on this project. My brother worked at the Eagle Mill. He loved the Eagle Mill. I can remember going in and there was I think her name was Mrs. Biazin, was on the floor, and she said, go up and see your brother, it's okay. I would love to see that building. I think we all would love to see that building developed. So those are just my comments, and I thank you all for everything you do. I know it's a tough time in this town, and thank you very much. I gotta go home.
Gail, do you want to let Ed go first?
Ladies first.
Okay.
Gail Cerezia. I just wanted to ask, and maybe you were going to discuss this later, I'm not really sure, if you have a plan, of how you're going to go forward. I know you were talking about meeting with the other boards, but I also think that it would be really helpful to have some kind of organization where some people, there's different groups working on various things, because this is a really big project to try to defeat. And so I'm just wondering if we could have like a think tank of different committees we could create and see if we could get people active. One of them would be perhaps sample letters of what we could write to our legislatures. And who are our legislatures? They change all the time. Well, maybe not that much, but they do change. And I know you were talking about it at the last meeting, and I'm just wondering if any of that is in play or on the plan, because I'm really anxious to see it happen. GE and EPA are not resting. They told the people to go ahead and start work, and they have been working. They've been working right along since 2019, as far as I can see. And the further along the road, the more they'll have invested, the more difficult it will be to defeat them. And I think that, as Monica says, she was reading a geologist's report, it is the worst place to put a PCB dump, any dump really, on that piece of land. It just doesn't even make sense. And so I'm just hoping that we can reach our legislatures and make change. I don't know how else we're going to do it if we can't get them on board. I really don't. Okay, thank you.
Ed Leahy, Mill Street, Lee. I'm just going to address the point of issue that you have tonight, where you're going to appoint someone to be on the board with regard to the Rest of the River Initiative. And I would not suggest that you make Mrs. Carlino that person. And I want to make it very clear. She came on the school committee when I was on it, way back in 1980s or something like that. I was on it for 17 years. And we've had a wonderful rapport. It's a great family. It has nothing personal to do with this individual. However, this is the person who, unfortunately, with two other members of the board, made a decision that could easily destroy this town. And one of the places they were going to put one of these dumps, if you remember, was up near Goose Pond. Where did one of the selectmen live? Up near or on Goose Pond. Suddenly, that disappeared. And all of a sudden, the whole dump is going to be in a section where none of the 3 selectmen lived. I bring that to you. I want to say this. I would say that she did her job. She thought she did it well. She hurt us terribly. I don't think she's the one to be put back in that position. I made a comment last night, or the last time, which I will not repeat, but as much as I have liked her, respected her through the years, including the fact that she performed the marriage ceremony for one of my daughters, I think it's inappropriate to have her on that board because she has a vested interest in what she voted on, and I think we need an independent opinion in that position going forward. Thank you for your time, you guys. I know what you go through. I appreciate it.
Next lady.
Next lady. Just 2 things that have not been touched upon. I just want to tell everybody about a book that's out. Has anybody heard of Paradise Falls?
What's the name?
Paradise Falls?
Paradise Falls.
Sounds familiar.
Paradise Falls just came out a few months ago, and it's written by Kevin O'Brien. You can get it at your local bookstore. You can go up to Matt Tannenbaum and get it. I have a few copies on order. I have my book club reading it because they're from all over the area in the Berkshires. And it is the story of Love Canal, researched by this author, researched for years and years. I was lucky enough to be on a webinar where the author spoke for an hour and a half about all the research he did. Lois Gibbs was there, and the other 2 mothers that stopped Love Canal. And it's exactly as you begin the story, and I've gotten halfway through it, and it's just everything is the same. The corporate corruption, the political side of it, the small town trying to get through this. It is history repeating itself, and it happened in the 70s, and that's what brought about the Clean Waters Act. You've got to read it. You've got to read it, and you've got to make everybody else read it, because then they'll start understanding truly what we're going through. I just can't believe this is happening again, and it's happening again all over the country. The other thing I wanted to mention was, I understand the selectmen are going to have a site visit.
Yeah, I'm just going to mention that later, Claire.
And from what I understand, then later next week or so, the Conservation Commission is going to have a site visit. And they're preparing trails so that you can see the property in 4-wheelers pass throughout the property. This is very scary to me because this is a wetland, and for them to see, for the people going now, you people and the Conservation Commission, to actually see what's there, you have to walk in. I'm sorry, you're not, unless they tear up that land. That's so scary that they might do that. So how can we find out before they do these roads through there? I mean, shouldn't there be a legal?
Talking to the mic.
Yeah.
Shouldn't there be some way to stop them legally?
I have an answer for you, and it's not, I don't think you're gonna like it, but the fact of the matter is they own that property.
Exactly.
I can't tell, I don't think this board
but I
has the
thought it
discretion
was
to tell
on-
them what to do, what they can or cannot do.
I thought it was on hold until the appeal is finished.
The construction of the dump is on hold.
The construction of the dump.
Construction of the dump. That doesn't mean they can't put in, they can't bore a hole to test. It doesn't mean that they
Well,
can't.
tests, yeah, I understand
Or
that.
they can make a path for, they can do those things. They can't begin construction on a PCB dump.
Thank you for clarifying that.
I'm sorry to say.
All right, public comment. Anyone else? Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Josh Bloom of West Park Street in Lee. I think that we see from the last election that the vast majority of the town of Lee residents have voted in the referendum to withdraw from the rest of the river agreement indicates that the person who is going to represent our town in the rest of the river agreement meetings going forward needs to represent the town's will. And so putting somebody in place that has that opinion, that shares the majority opinion of the town, I think is very important. And I wish that you will take that into consideration as you choose a person for that post. Thank you.
Do you have any more? Anybody else want to say anything?
Can I say something?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just, we're going to be talking more about the appointee for the rest of the river group, and we're going to be talking more about what steps we're going to be taking to try to forward this thing, to rescind this thing. And we're right. For 2.5 years now, people of Lee have made it known that they don't want to dump in this town. That 3 people were able to decide for a town of around 5,500 people that they were going to have a toxic waste dump in their midst is simply, it just flies in the face of reason and logic. That being said, we all want the river cleaned. I've heard people say that Lee signed on, we need the river cleaned, so they signed on, so we're going to put it in. That's not the case. Everybody in Lee wants the river cleaned as well. But as Tim Gray says, this plan will not clean the river. It will not clean the river. So this is a sham. It's a complete sham. The way these meetings, rest of the river meetings were structured, it was in secrecy. None of the people in all of the towns knew this was happening. I lived in Stockbridge for 18 years. The people there, I have many friends in Stockbridge, I have friends in town government. None of them knew about it except for the then sitting Board of Selectmen. So the people in Great Barrington, Stockbridge, they're just as appalled as we are that this happened, okay? But they don't have a say in it because it's structured in such a way that very few people sitting around a table have decided there's going to be a dump in Lee. It's been said that there are more issues for Lee than just the dump. And I've heard that from several people. We have more facing us than Lee. Well, that's true. We have a lot of things going on. But there's going to come a day, if they put a dump there, it will be the only issue for the town of Lee. The only issue for all of us. So we're trying to head that off. I'm trying to head that off. And we'll go into it later. Gordon has some ideas. I have some ideas, perhaps Sean does, about how to move forward with this. We talked about it some in the last meeting. I was really grateful, gratified that this conversation is going to take place. There's some hesitation because of the cost of fighting the dump. We don't know what the cost is going to be. Well, I don't know that, but we have to find that out. But the long-term cost to this town will be forever, because generations to come are going to pay for the decisions that we make now. So we have to do everything. I know you want it. I know the voters of Lee want it, the vast majority. Let's do everything we can to see what we can do to rescind this deal. We'll come back to you, and in the end, it's going to be the decision of the voters. That's way too big a decision for me. But we'll decide together how we're going to do this. That's it. Thanks.
All right. If no one else has a public comment, we'll just keep going.
No, we have one more.
Diane, yeah.
I'm Diane Carroll, and I'm a registered nurse.
and I was a practicing registered nurse for 27 years. I ended my career at Lee Middle High School. And I'm coming from a health perspective. If this dump goes in our town, it's so devastating for our health and well-being. That's where I'm coming from. I don't care about my property value. I care about the town, our grandchildren, our children, the disabled people that don't have a say. We know that PCBs, any amount of PCBs are hazardous. To put a dump in this town is, we're gonna have a ghost town. That will be the only problem in this town if we have a dump. That's all I have to say.
All right. I think we're ready to move on to general business. First up, we have a DEP grant. It says Peter Hoffman, but I believe Valerie was here before. Maybe you could come up and just give us a quick summation, but I think what you were getting at is you wanted approval to submit a grant?
Correct.
Yeah.
And, we've applied for grants many times, but we're just coming.
We've gotten every year. Right.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
So I had a question.
Sure.
Are there things that you folks have already thought about what you're going to spend the grant money on, like an update? Can you give us an update on what your thoughts are?
It's very specific, and I
Okay.
wish I could be thorough, but it's basically educational
Okay.
aspects to,
Sure.
it can't be to purchase composting buckets, but
Okay,
it can.
that's why I didn't know if it was
So we
water.
do that, we have a small budget from the town anyway, that we're able to do those other things.
Okay.
So it's more on the educational aspect.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That's all I was wondering what your plan was.
Right.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, I would entertain a motion for approval, would it be?
To allow them to apply?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we allow them to apply for the DEP grant.
I'll second that.
Second that. And any discussion further?
Nope.
Any, no? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Valerie.
Thank you,
you
I'm
very
sorry
much.
I spoke out of turn before. And I just, Peter said if I want, if I was so moved, I would say something about cleanup. And just for your information, we collected over 960 nip bottles
Ooh,
during
yeah.
our one annual cleanup in April. And stay tuned for more
Yeah.
information about
When
that.
is your next cleanup?
June, we always meet
Last
the
Saturday.
last Saturday of June. Yep.
Gotcha.
We welcome anybody to join us.
Of every month. Last
Every
Saturday's
month, every month, last Saturday. And if it's raining, we do Sunday.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you.
So, live or drop tonight. All right, next order of business, we have a common vitular license for New England Wraps. And I've got their application here in front of me.
Anybody
Nobody
here for them? No. No one's here for them?
This is on Main Street, so they're moving locations, right? Yeah.
It was down on this end and now moving to where Subway was.
Gotcha.
Right?
It hasn't been down this end for a long time.
Yeah, it's been a couple of years, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So, I assume they can't do business without somebody with a serve safe license and all that anyway, so that must be just the Board of Health that worries about that?
Yep.
Okay, all right. Well, I'd make a motion to issue them a common victualer's license.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion at this point? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next, Todd Tyer with a wastewater request. Thank you, Todd, for your patience. And
Thank you.
I think we'll all be interested in hearing what you have to say here.
I'll be quick. Todd Tyer, Supervisor, Town of Lee Wastewater Plant. Town of Lee has a few employees, long-term employees, who are retiring over the next month or so. And one being Al Zerbato, who's dedicated 35 years to this town, over 35 years to this town. The vast majority of those to the wastewater plant. So I'm here to see if the board is willing to allow us to name the access road at the wastewater plant after Al, to some effect, Al Zerbato, Al Zippy Zerbato, whatever. Just put where the current street sign says wastewater plant, put an additional one there, or replace that one after him for his dedication to the town.
Very interesting request, I thank you.
Yeah, I know in the past, I think years ago it was named after a previous one, but things happened and that was rescinded, but I think Al has shown a lot of dedication over his life to the town of Lee, and in my opinion, it's be well deserved. But that's all for me.
Mr. Chairman, I think it would be a great idea, and I don't see any reason not to at all. I don't know if to be politically correct, if we should talk to the Traffic Commission just to make sure they didn't have a different idea, but I think it's a no-brainer, to tell you the truth. But I didn't know out of, just to make sure that they didn't have some other issue, but I don't see why they would. Otherwise, I'd make the motion now, but maybe we could put it on an agenda for next time.
Right now, the sign, I believe, just says wastewater.
Yeah,
wastewater
I mean, I
plant.
think it's a great
Yeah.
idea. I just don't want to.
Don't want to step in somebody else's.
Or we can do it if you don't think we need to go to anybody else. I mean, I have no problem with this. I think.
Do you have any feelings on it, Chris?
Well, that's basically just Craig right now, so I don't want to speak for him, but I can't imagine that would change anything with traffic. Right now, there's actually an issue because if you go on Google Maps, it calls it runway, I believe, which is the next street. So if anything, it might help and get a few people, less people coming to the wastewater plant looking for RWs.
So are you leaving it up to us to what to call it? I mean, are you going to call it Zippy Way or?
I don't know what way to go there.
Yeah.
Is it Al Zerbato way or Al Zippy?
Yeah.
That's kind of up for whatever.
I'll make a motion.
Sure.
I'll make a motion that we rename the road to the wastewater treatment plant Al Zerbato Way.
I would second that for sure.
Anything else? Any further discussion at this point? Sure, Monica.
Absolutely.
You wanna?
Monica Ryan, yes, I mean, I think Zippy Way is perfect, but I just want to thank Zippy just publicly because, my God, this guy has saved our town. When we had the 2004 and the whole thing with the wastewater plant and building a new one, well, he became an award-winning, as you know, and was recognized by the state or maybe was it even nationally, I think, national award-winning guy. I mean, he took that plant over. And thank God he did, because, if it had been privatized, that would have gone wrong. But Zippy was able to build the plant, and then when, I remember the EPA had increased or said that they had to bring the phosphorus down to a certain level, and it was like a quarter of what we had planned for or something. And Zippy came up with a plan to fix that through whatever machinations and avoided this huge bill that we would have had to fit it. And that's when I think he was looked at for the award, because he came up with this whole thing that no one else had ever thought of. So thank God for Zippy.
Yeah.
And he's a great guy.
I'm good, thank you.
So,
So
if there's nothing further, I would say, let's, all those in favor of naming the wastewater treatment plant road Al Zerbato Way?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. And thank you, Al, for, your years of service, and I hope this is, I hope he enjoys the idea of a street being named after him in town, so.
I'd be afraid of speeding if we called it Zippy Way.
Okay. So next on our general business, we have Thaddeus Kubis from the Lee Chamber of Commerce. This is we're looking for permits for the Lee Founders Day Parade and fireworks. Is Thaddeus here?
Yes.
Yes, that's right. I completely. There had so much went on since then.
So I'm Thad Kubis, as I mentioned, the Executive Director of the Lee Chamber of Commerce. We started planning for the Founder's Day today. I met with Tom Swift. We have a couple of very unique ideas. We're looking to bring a car show at the north end of town. We're looking to expand the craft fair area, but obviously to move that forward, we need permission from you guys. So hopefully, as we develop, we'll keep you in touch, and we'll be developing a very, very unique opportunity for those 3 days.
Yeah.
Any questions that I could answer? I'll make them up if I don't know anyway, so. Okay?
You could be a selectman someday.
That's right.
Thank you.
What's the date
So-
for Founder's Day?
16th, 17th, 18th of September.
So there are no specific requests for permits at the moment. You're still in the planning stages to be able to.
I thought, I was told that 2 permits were requested.
Oh, okay.
One was for the parade and one was for fireworks.
Right.
I just got this job a month ago, so I'm not really that familiar with it. But I was told they were on the desk.
Yeah.
Nope.
I actually
I see a
don't.
request, but I don't see a
Yeah,
permit.
Okay.
I don't have the permits in front of me, but I have the requests, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'd be more than happy to make a motion that we issue permits for the parade and for the fireworks, and to waive fees if there are any associated with those 2 issues.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much.
We'll second it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
As you do go forward, just know that usually people want to, block the sidewalk and sell food and all that kind of stuff. And some people come who maybe don't have a storefront, but just remember, there may be some other permits necessary and, that kind of thing as we go forward. As it
We
gets
get set
closer.
up with the booth structure,
Yeah.
with the craft fairs normally like. I've already left a message with Chief of Police
Yeah.
about the potential car show. So once we have that, we had our first meeting, our official first meeting today.
Great.
So as soon as we know what that you guys will be informed.
Sounds great.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Thad. All right, our next agenda item is a BRTA lead designee appointment, and I believe Andrea Wadsworth is willing to continue to serve. So if there's no objection, I'd entertain a motion to appoint Andrea Wadsworth.
I'll make a motion to appoint Andrea to the BRTA as our representative.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now, next we have a request from Mark Michaud for a waiver of a tent permit. This is for 715 Devon Road. And I don't know the nature of it's a tent permit. I don't know what the nature of the event is, but
I think it's probably like a plant sale or something. I don't really know, I don't have
plants,
anything.
yeah, people are saying plants, so.
He's done it before.
Yeah, okay.
But why waiver the fee? Is it for raising money for the VFW or for a private organization? I don't know what, I don't know what this is about. So maybe we could just, and when's the event gonna happen? I only got this.
That's all I got too. Yeah.
No other information. I don't know
Well,
what's
I
happening.
got just an
I
email
guess,
saying he wants it
Ms.
waived.
Is this for
Streets,
a
you may know.
previous tent or a tent they're trying to?
We don't know.
We have no idea. This is what I
Because
got.
I know we had veterans, we had a tent for veterans. Veterans always puts tents up, and you have.
Oh, okay.
Sure,
Oh, yeah.
and that's why I was wondering, what's it for? And that, I'm fine with that, I got no problem with that. But if it's for the rest of the year to sell things, then you gotta pay the fee. So, but yeah, but we have no other information than this. I mean, I would make a motion that if in fact the tent permit request was for a nonprofit organization to perform some tasks, then I would be willing to waive the fee.
Yeah, I would second that.
Okay.
I'll find out.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion regarding that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next item of business, we have a Rest of River Committee appointment that we need to make.
Sure. Mr. Chairman, I would have done this last time, but we had a request otherwise, but I would make a motion that we appoint Bob Jones as a Board of Selectmen being a Board of Select member, to be the Rest of River individual that represents our town.
Second.
And just as a matter of discussion, I want this to be, if I'm going to be at that table, as I think I said last time, I'm going to be like a skunk at a lawn party. But I want, in particular, this board to know what's going on. I've sat here for a year and not gotten a single report on Rest of the River, other than what I get through emails, just copies of minutes, all right? Okay, but I want to be able to come back to this board in public, other than what I am sworn to, if it's executive session stuff, and let this board know, let the people know what's going on. I think that it's important that people who understand the demeanor of that committee. I think it's important to understand what they're thinking. I promise that I will come back here. I will be clear and concise, and as far as I'm concerned, I've been charged with the responsibility, we've been charged with the responsibility of doing everything we can to rescind this, and I will try to do that to the best of my ability in an orderly and civil manner.
I don't think I would expect anything less than that, especially about the communication issue.
Yeah.
I realize there may be times when we have to go into executive session to hear a report from you. I don't know what has happened in the past. I've asked Cindy to get all the past few years. I haven't gotten them as a package yet, so I'm hoping to get them soon.
We're all going to receive them.
Yes, that's what I mean. They're going to be on our table, and we need to discuss this, and we may have to meet occasionally only on things in executive session. But publicly, I think that's anything that you can bring to the public and share with us publicly. Absolutely necessary.
And if there are any question about that, I will check. I will check.
Absolutely, check with Jeremiah. Yeah. No, I think that's the way we have to go forward. You know. So.
We haven't voted yet.
I don't have any other comments.
Anything else you want to say, Bob?
No.
No.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So, but before we move on, not that this is applicable to you, just you, but, well, actually, I'll cover it in the next section.
Yeah.
Not this section.
Okay.
I'll cover it later.
Sure. Yeah, at this point, I'd just like to, I think, I forget who said it earlier, maybe it was Claire or Monica. We are going to do a site visit. This is not going to be a public meeting. Each select board member is going to go individually in turn and meet. Is it just the EPA that we're meeting up there? Is it?
My understanding was it's just the EPA, a person with the EPA.
Yeah, so we're going to be meeting them in turn up there tomorrow, and we'll each do our own sort of independent site visit. I'm sure we'll all have our questions and to ask or whatever we're going to do, but it's not going to be a public meeting. The public isn't going to be invited. Yes, Ann?
So, a really huge question. If you guys are all going individually, one of the biggest issues for the Rest of River Committee, I'm sorry, did you want me to stand up there?
Yeah.
You had just said that you guys are all going individually.
Right.
One of the biggest issues with the whole Rest of River Committee, with the EPA and GE, was a whole divide and conquer situation. Knowing that fact, can you guys go as a group? Are they requesting you guys go individually?
But we could go as a group if we weren't discussing policy or debating things amongst ourselves.
Right.
I think it's much more effective. It will be for me much more effective to go. I don't have much to say to them because I've heard the spiel for 2.5 years, and I'm not really interested. But I am interested in walking through with them to actually see the site with an EPA with EPA representatives. I mean, it's not going to change. I can tell you, it's not going to change my mind about anything. Sure. But I just hope to come away with a better educated than when we started. But I think it would be cumbersome for the three of us to go together because there are open meeting laws involved. We can't discuss it amongst each other anyway.
Right.
So, and I understand, you know, the EPA called me when I got elected and said, do you want to meet? And I said, if it's about rescinding the agreement, that's great.
Right.
And they said, no, it's not that. And I said, well, I'm not really interested in meeting with you.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay.
So before you leave there, I know there's other people who comment, but before you leave, one other issue, it was brought to me also, do you want to do it as a group or not, you know, and there is a section of the open meeting law that would allow the three of us to go. But one reason I said, no, I want to go individually is because to me, that was just going to lend itself to looking like the three of us did something behind closed doors in a way, even though we're outside, you know, without the public, because GE, I think, was pretty specific. They didn't want the general public. You know, could be a lot of trip and falls, lawsuit, I mean, who knows? But I think that the issue was, I felt it would be cleaner for me to go. I can ask questions and banter around. I won't look like I'm trying to lead anybody in a certain way or debate things.
So does that mean it's handled like an executive session?
Pardon? It could be, it could be.
It could have been.
It could have
If we were
been.
gonna go
I'm saying
together.
I don't want to do it that way because I don't want it to look like we're doing something. You know, if the public can't go, then I don't think the three of us should go as a group. And because we might ask a question or it might look like we're debating, you know, I can ask questions that might steer them in a way that, you know, I would want them to think or whatever, or vice versa. I don't want that to happen or anybody to accuse us of anything down the road that we weren't upfront, and that's why we're talking about it. We are going to go. But then what I think we need to do is that our next meeting, we need to have an agenda item where we can then discuss, oh, what did you see? What did you think?
Right.
So it needs to be a public discussion of how each of us reacted maybe when we went and saw the site.
Right.
So that no one thinks we're doing anything behind closed doors or as a group off on our own. That was my thought of why I thought we should do it individually.
Wonderful. My next question is, since it's not considered an executive session for you guys, are they open to you guys taking photographs so that you can share stuff or information with the public? Or are they not going to allow that? Do you even know?
I haven't asked that question. Anybody else?
I don't know I don't know about photographs, but it's my intention. Nobody's told me that I can't come back and talk about my visit there.
Right.
My
Okay,
visit
wonderful.
there.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
I'm planning
Thank
to
you.
do the same.
Excellent. And you too, Sean?
Yeah.
Planning to do the same?
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Gray.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yep.
And Claire might correct me on this, but Claire's been doing a lot of research about the open space plan in this town. And am I right, Claire, that we identified as a town where the dump is being built as a possible resource area for maybe even like a future water supply and stuff like that? Is that true? What have you found out about that? I'll sit down.
Well, it is in an ACEC zone. We know that.
It's an
Yeah.
ACEC, but
Yeah.
yeah, there's definitely an aquifer underneath.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
huge, it's the second largest in the town. And in our open space plan, it does say that we should be very careful to protect that. And some people say, oh, well, maybe it's already contaminated. We don't know. But a lot of towns are now switching from surface water to aquifers because of all the pollution in the air is contaminating the water. So we have quite a soup up there that's floating around. So that's in our open space plan, which was very nicely prepared by Berkshire Regional Planning Commission. And that whole area is looked at as a area that has a lot of potential endangered species because that is a perfect place. It has a wetland and then the mountain, and that's the migratory nature of a lot of these animals. I seem to be the only one really concerned about the wetland aspect of this, but I did have a walk also with Dean Tagliaferro took me on Gila, actually, because of arguments I was having with him on the public meeting that's the Citizens Coordinating Council, which they have, and Tim's been at these meetings too. And anyway, I'm just there usually to spy, see what's happening, see what they're talking about, that, you know, they might be sharing that we're not hearing publicly. But I was very upset that they were portraying this as just a sand pit. And again, you've heard me say before, there is a restored field of grass up there, and hopefully it's still there when you go up. And then there's a steep slope going down to the wetland. And when I went with Dean, he never was going to take me there. And we got him to walk by the wetland. And he said, oh, make sure that they know about this. And they had gone in recently and put up ribbons delineating it. We saw that, and those ribbons are gone now. And you can just see that from the road, and you can see the wetland from the road. So you don't have to trespass, but you'll be able to walk in there. It's only 30 feet off the road. So it's just something that a resource that we've been warned to protect, which is very important to our town.
Gail, you have something you want to say?
So I just wanted to address, you're saying that as a group, if you go out, then that's, and the public's not invited, or some of the public that wants to show up, that would be considered an executive meeting?
Yeah, to clarify this whole situation, we could have posted an executive session for tomorrow, in which case we could have conducted a site visit. We wouldn't be allowed to actually deliberate at the site visit as part of that meeting. So, and I think what Gordon and Bob were getting at, that kind of limits what we can even really do as a board if we were going to go, which is why we're going to go individually, so that we can sort of ask some questions, have some conversation, and we're not at risk of breaking any open public meeting law at that point. You know, it's not and the public isn't invited as it is right now anyway. So
okay.
I think Gail should tell about the citizens petition and where we requested the site visit that she presented to the Conservation Commission.
Yeah, we had a request, we had filed a request for determination of applicability, requesting to have the resources identified in GE property. A lot of work is being done on that site. As a matter of fact, there's been a road built right across in the right-of-way, which is probably Western Mass Electric or Eversource right-of-way, but I can tell you that they never put trap rock and take all the vegetation away in most of the right-of-ways throughout the country, okay? So that being said, it's excessive work, if anything, and EPA has told GE to go ahead and work. We've been watching work being done it's been under appeal on Eurovia's site. We watched another corporation, looks like they are interested in having an access to the dump. And so we have 4 corporations working on this site before the Conservation Commission was able to go out and look. And they are now just doing studies, as far as I can tell. I haven't really looked through the ecological studies in the past, but I haven't seen anything yet. And what I'm concerned about is they're doing a lot of work on the site, and the ecological studies haven't been done. So the board, the Conservation Commission, got a letter from EPA, no less, saying that EPA wants to meet the Conservation Commission as a group, but does not want we applied for this permit to come out on the site. They don't want us. They want to meet us later. And I take issue with this because we are the ones who asked for the request for determination, and we are interested. We're not bringing, the whole town. It would be whoever signed it or whoever wants to go to this meeting. But what are they hiding? I don't understand why we can't go to that site visit. I've been on many site visits on private property where they allow the public on the property. And a lot of things are, pointed out about what is there. And so we are a little confused why the Conservation Commission feels that they should be able to go and not the public. And I'm not a lawyer, but I think that since we applied, we should be able to go on that site. And there's, as I said, there's a lot of things going on that probably shouldn't be. I would like to present to you a PowerPoint, which is an overview of maps that I've seen online, okay? And just taking pictures, which might give you a good view of how some of us are looking at this site, probably all of us, and would be informative for you to see before you go on the site with GE.
Well, then you better email it to us tonight. Because, I'm scheduled tomorrow at 11, so.
It's scheduled tomorrow at 11?
I am,
And I'm going at 9.
So,
And I believe Bob's in the middle at 10, so.
Okay.
So, and I've gone.
You said that, I'll be happy to get it right to them.
Well, it doesn't have a lot of, it's just a lot of maps and whatnot, so, it would help if I could explain it to you, but, yeah.
Yeah, you could be in here at 8 o'clock.
There's-
the PowerPoint.
there's,
just like you did for the Conservation
well-
Commission, and it would be very helpful.
Yeah, I would do that.
Can't really meet again without a posted meeting. It would be helpful if you just at least sent it so we could take a look at it, and then maybe later we could discuss it. And we can always ask to go back, but I have in other years on other boards and this one in the past, gone on site visits where the public was welcome. But it was up to the owner of the property to say whether they wanted us to have people come along. So we always did it as an open meeting, posted, public came with us, anybody who was interested. We used to do it every year as a follow-up to the oak and spruce issue. And, but, the owner had the right to say yes or no. And this time, I guess, the owner's uncomfortable having it be open, and that's why I didn't want to go, the three of us. I just thought it wouldn't look right.
Well, I think that we could actually, the public could even show you a lot just from Woodland Road.
I understand.
Okay, so.
It may come to that.
But there is a thread here, is what I'm trying to point out, that everything is being done secretly. It really is, and they don't want the public involved. They're going to come after they look at the site and address the public. Well,
They haven't had the public yet.
they really haven't included the public.
What they're doing right now is just the public relations.
We gotta stay focused here, so I'd just like to move into our next,
I have my hand up.
line of.
I've had that for a while.
Go ahead. Yeah, I have no problem, Monica, if you wanna be brief.
It's on this topic. Yeah. So Gail did go before the Concom and did a request for a determination of applicability. And they were given a letter, from Ben Fisher from the EPA. He didn't even have the decency to respond to the people who applied to the EPA, anyway, and he said that the Concom could come. Well, what I would suggest is, and I suggested to them, because none of them are wetland specialists on the Conservation Commission, is why wouldn't you just bring along an expert with you and ask them to say nicely, well, we'd like to do this, but I don't know enough about wetlands, but this one person over here, one person who is a specialist, I'd like to bring them with me so that I can be more informed at what I'm seeing here, okay? So that's what I would suggest, is to ask them to to allow you to bring a specialist, have that person there, and let them explain to you why not. Because I'd be curious as to see what problem they would have if you were to say, look, I don't know, are any of the three of you wetland specialists?
I'm not a wetland specialist.
A certified, right, no, a certified wetland specialist.
Definitely not. That being
It's
said,
quite credentialed, yeah. So, so I'm saying is, wouldn't you want to have that available?
Well, I'm not going as a Conservation Commission member.
Right.
Right.
So that they should address that, I think. That's a valid point for them to address. right now, I'm not sure what they want to show us or do. This is like a fact-finding thing as far as I'm concerned. I just want to go and absorb what they have to say, see what's happening, ask questions, and
Yeah.
then when we get together to talk about it, we may ask to go back, and maybe then we'll do it as a group. But I think the first thing we have to do is, what is the issue? What are they going to try and bring to us? If they start talking wetland to me, I'm going to say, whoa, time out, not my job. That's the Conservation Commission's job. Let them bring this special.
Well, actually, the EPA already told the Conservation Commission that it's not even in their purview. They said that they override the Conservation Commission, and I don't, that's their statement. I feel that the Conservation Commission should have stood up and said, no, our job is to protect the town and the environment of the town. And this is our job, and we're going to keep doing it. But they actually didn't do that. They responded with, well, this is what they're telling us. So I feel that that's not really, we're not getting even good help on that end.
I think it's just important to distinguish and clarify that our meeting tomorrow has nothing to do with the RDA, with the Conservation Commission.
I know.
or anything. Yeah.
I realize that. Thank you. Okay. Well, I've said my piece.
I just wanted to say that I attended that meeting. Gail did actually a great presentation, which I think it would be helpful for this board to hear. It was very professionally done. The Conservation Commission, I'm speaking for myself now, personally, I've been just perplexed why the Conservation Commission it's been crickets with them. They haven't said anything about this at all. I was happy to see so many people at the meeting who spoke up and said, we need your input on this. And even though they aren't going to act upon Gail's application, or I'm not sure who put it in. Did you put it in, Gail? Yeah. They are going to go and look at it. What troubled me was they said they don't have jurisdiction, and that may be so. But I mean, if you see, and quite frankly, I'm going to refer to it this way, a heinous crime happening, and you say it's none of my business, shame on you.
Right.
And I think the conservation, and I actually, in all fairness, I was approached by a member of the Conservation Commission as I was leaving. The meeting was still going on, and she asked, was there any funding available if they wanted to hire an expert to advise them? And I said, I don't know, but if you bring that to us, I would certainly look favorably on that. Of course, it's not my decision alone.
Right.
But at least there was that inquiry. I think I think we're all frustrated because it's been 2.5 years, but I think we're getting some movement now. They're at least going to look at the area, and I think it's up to us, it's up to you, it's up to get all your friends and family, fly in your relatives if you have to go to these meetings and put pressure on these boards, including us, to act. Yes. But it has to be a focused and an intense effort, because as soon as you let down your guard, it'll be gone. The opportunity will be lost.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Tag team. I'll make this quick. Information has come to me that people don't seem to realize that the final pile will be 4 stories higher than the existing land level. Yeah. Think about that. Okay, that's all.
So, thank you for all that discussion. So next, we're going to discuss, we have on here Rest of River discussion of public forum. And I guess to me it seems proper to, I would assume that this public forum would just be a select board meeting. We would post one agenda item, and it would be the Rest of River agreement discussion, I suppose, is sort of the way that I see the format going. And I think that we would probably have town council here to answer any legal questions that he may be able to answer. Not sure he's going to be able to answer all of them, because this is a very complex issue, but I know that everybody has a lot to say, so I think that this could turn into a multi-night event. I don't know if either of you have any thoughts as far as that all kind of goes.
I think it's a great idea. I think it was your idea, Gordon, to do this. And I think it's a great idea. We may want to do it in a different forum than this room.
Oh, yeah, it would be inappropriate to hold it here. I think the auditorium is where
The
it's gotta have to
auditorium
be.
would be good. And then I think we should work up some sort of agenda discussion, because this is a multifaceted problem. But I think that we need to hear some fresh voices. When this thing first happened, everybody was very, very passionate, and GE knows exactly what it's doing. They're just wearing us down, or trying to wear us down, and we need, if we can get 500 people in there, just to be present and to give us guidance, to give us the strength and the courage and the direction to keep pushing this thing. But I think the way to do that, people who want a voice, you'll have it. And we're just the tools for getting this stuff done to the best of our ability. But we need to hear from the people of Lee.
So, I don't want to interrupt Bob. Okay.
Would like to, I'm debating whether or not to join a landfill group put on by the Center for, I've been watching these webinars that are put on by the Center for Health and Environmental Justice, and they're the ones that have this fund that was built up after Love Canal, and they give out grants to people that are trying to stop dumps like we have. And they sent me an email just last week asking if I would like to join a landfill committee. It's a landfill investigative, to help with community organizing, to help us develop a plan, help your group develop a plan. Well, I don't really have a group, but I'm thinking, somehow we could get, it could be HRI. I think they're so busy with everything going on. I just don't know where to go with this. Maybe, I'll just respond, and they said they want to meet with me on a webinar, they want to interview me. So I don't have time. So it's just crazy. I have 100 kids starting in tennis next week, the end of the month. So I'm tired.
I do, because one of the things I thought we would do in this meeting is have Jeremiah there. And the other thing was, in the last 2 weeks, I've been mulling over how to go about, reaching out to someone with more specific expertise. Not that Jeremiah isn't a good contract lawyer or anything like that, that's fine. And, he may be restricted in what he can talk about and do as far as giving us advice too. So I was going to write an email to HRI and ask them if they could reach out to their attorneys to say, hey, would they be willing on a webinar basis, not necessarily drive out from Boston or whatever, but to have them available for, as we look through the Rest of River agreement, the issue of severability, the issue of, us leaving alone, us leaving as a 5-town group, all these different kind of component pieces, and I've jotted down a bunch of the component pieces I've thought of on how we could step forward. But I think we need more expertise, and including, I know people don't care for the attorney from the five group business, but it could be that we need him available to ask a question because of the language, whether it was helped molded by him or whatever, but he may have his perspective. I think the more legal perspectives we get, while it may add to some confusion, I think in the long run, it might help us settle out, how we're going to move forward in this. That was just one of the issues, and I didn't feel as an individual board member I should do that without speaking with you two at this meeting to say, are you supportive of that kind of thing or not? So I'll stop at that point to see what you guys think.
I would say, Gordon, that I've been saying for some time now, we have a resource in the town of Lee, experts that know more about this stuff than the rest of the river does, okay?
Yep.
Probably more than the EPA does, and that's HRI. And they have funding, they have the legal staff, they have the strength to take this on. But the problem has been for 2.5 years, we've been sitting on our hands. And I think we're finally we're going to at least try to get somewhere.
Yeah.
But it was to whatever degree Tim and his organization wants to be involved, I would wholeheartedly endorse their involvement, because these people are really coming from the right place. They're not they're not radicals. They're not tree huggers. It's all fact and science based, with the ultimate goal being the cleanup of our Housatonic River. That's really the ultimate goal. Okay, and if we can get this dump stopped in Lee, GE is going to be that much closer to having to do the right thing.
Right.
So I'm all for.
So you'd be willing to support that? I mean,
yes,
if the
absolutely.
board wants to reach out to them and.
But I would say the first go-to for me is HRI.
I agree. But I think their attorneys would need to look at the legal issue, not just, I want to hear from the scientists too. I'm not saying anything about that.
Well, they have
But I think,
attorneys.
yes, that's why I'm saying, I didn't want to reach out to HRI on my own.
Right.
Without checking with you folks to say, if this was cool, then whether it's under Sean's signature or the town administrator, it doesn't matter to me who reaches out. I just think we need to reach out and get them involved, or be there as a backup, whether it be in person or, by Zoom or whatever. I don't want to waste attorneys' times, because everything's valuable.
The only thing I would caution, and it's something I've been worried about, and you and I just met each other a short time ago. The one thing I would caution is I don't want to go at, personally, I don't want to go at this as simply a negotiation or a fact-finding mission, or even playing by the rules, because GE and the EPA do not play by the rules. Whatever they tell you, you cannot take that home. You simply can't.
Right.
And so I don't want to walk into a room with the EPA or GE and think it's like it's some sort of high school debate or some sort of academic discussion. This is real life in real time and a real threat to this community. Not only to this community, but to the whole southern Berkshire community.
Right.
So I don't want to. I want to go at this, speaking personally, aggressively. I don't want to listen to when the EPA tells us thing, and all of a sudden we have to run to HRI, who's running around trying to put out fires from all the lies that have been part of this rest of the river thing. I just want this board to be of the mindset that we really want to rescind this thing to the best of our ability, and not make it some sort of academic debate or discussion. That's all.
I get it. I think you had a question before I go on to other ideas.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure.
I have,
And do you want to say something about that?
Yeah, and then I have other comments to bring up.
But before you go in, I don't have a problem with you reaching out to HRI if you want to do that on your own or through Chris or whoever.
Gordon, you just mentioned about also getting the power group involved, which
Possibly.
was right. I just wanted to point out, so I clearly recall that in late 2012, not even into 2013, when they first started doing the Rest of the River original draft, within that draft, and I had told you I have a lot of the minutes that aren't still up on their website, the Berkshire Regional Planning Commission. Within that draft, the suggestion by that power group was to not go in the direction of trying to fight against GE, because it could cost upwards of $1 million.
I read that, yeah.
Okay. That being said, that power group has earned almost $1 million. So, to me, that is a bit of a conflict of interest, and I would just, take warning in that here they are. To me, it seems like a carpetbagger situation. It's kind of like a bait and switch. Well, don't give them the million, give the $1 million to us. I feel that's kind of what happened. And my concern about getting them involved with what you guys are looking at as a whole now is that I don't think they're going to have our best interest again at hand. Thank you.
Thanks. Well, again, I think my thought process on having them available for comment wasn't to get their advice. It's to answer specific questions that it has been written into the agreement, that I want to know why they suggested it and whether or not it's legitimate and isn't something we can just put aside. You know, to be honest with you, if the town, and again, remember, all of this right now that I'm talking about is to prepare ourselves for a town-wide discussion on, do they want us to go ahead and pull the trigger on this? And in the meantime, we'll know, well, you know, are we gonna go it alone? Are we gonna go it as a group? And if it costs us $1 million, are the people in this town willing to foot that bill? And if so, let's go for it. That's not my initial concern right now. My initial concern right now is let's figure out what the legal language is that's handcuffing us, and is it really handcuffing us? I guess that was my thoughts.
That's why the independent counsel.
Yeah, absolutely,
Right.
absolutely. And that's why I thought, well, maybe they could shed some light on some of the language that they, again, I haven't talked to any of the people who are on Rest of River. I haven't talked to our designee, who is Patricia Carlino, about what happened in any of the meetings that she can tell me about. I don't know how actively this Powell group came in helping craft the language, or if this language was crafted by the EPA or GE in the EPA. I don't know. And so she's out of town right now. I'm intending to find that out by talking with her to see how this evolved with the current language that's there, because that'll help me think my way through, well, how do I want to go about trying to, how can the town go about, not just me, how can the town go about steering away from this and getting it, cutting the ties? And again, that's why I've been adverse to just automatically saying, let's leave the group, because I think we may, in the long run, need the whole group to leave. And I think, as I mentioned before, maybe we have to meet with the boards of selectmen in other towns and invite them in, and, that kind of a thing.
If I may interject just for a second.
Please.
I took the liberty, I reached out to all 3 members of the select board in Stockbridge individually.
Good, yeah.
And all 3 of them are open to the idea of us coming and meeting with them at any time in a public forum to discuss this.
Right.
Obviously, I told them, look, this is just a conversation. They've committed to this as well, so they have challenges the same as we have.
Sure.
But they understand. It's not. I think there's only one member of the Stockbridge Select Board that actually signed on to the Rest of the River Agreement.
Okay.
But they understand also that it was done behind closed doors, and that the people of Stockbridge deserve to know what they got signed up for. So
They got trucks coming through their town too for 15 years.
Absolutely. Yeah, so we can do that anytime. I think we need to get our organizational work done here first, but then I would very much like to start with Stockbridge if we may.
I think that's a great way to go.
Yeah.
And then Lennox, I think we absolutely need to talk to them, because I have some things to say there.
And if I may, and I apologize because this is a bit off the subject, but Chris, do you have access to the dam report, the reports on the dams?
Yeah, I can get those. So I actually have, and I can give a little more information when your guys are ready, that the most recent updates, if you want. I know they are doing dam inspections on the Woods Pond Dam and Rising Pond Dam, so I can get information about that.
Okay, that's great. I'm sorry that I digressed.
No, this actually ties into something I wanted to talk about anyway.
Okay.
Because in all of this, I know we also talked last week, which I want to tie back to this, about this other grant, the one was on the video with us with the MVP.
Oh, yes,
Okay. And one of the things,
vulnerability?
yeah, one thing that I thought of was, well, I know that we have, and it will tie back to this, one thing we've had problems with, not just at the Cove, but up further toward where the road triangles from Graylock to Bradley and all this, we have some detention areas that basically, because of overflow from the river, have been polluted. And we know there's PCBs in there. So one thing I thought was, if we can get this stuff stopped, We have a lot of complaints in that area about backflowing and whatnot into our culverts and what, maybe that's something that we could look at the MVP grant about just doing those things. If we stop the cleanup of the whole river, are we gonna have to live with that not being able to be cleaned up? And it was just something to think about. That would be one of the things I'd have in the back of my mind as we were talking about this. Could we get any money, if we worked with HRI and things actually maybe either got to stay there or the things changed somewhat from the current plan, could we utilize that to leverage somehow a cleanup of our areas that are creating drastic problems in our drainage systems? That were meant to flow into the river kind of free, but now they're actually getting backed up from the river, and that's creating a problem. So that was in my mind as she was talking. And we can't touch it. That's and that's why I was talking to Mr. Zervato about that too. I went to him and say, well, what about those areas? And it's like, we can't touch them because of the PCB things, and that's why this kind of all gelled in my mind as well. Maybe there's a way to kind of like, not necessarily have our cake and eat it too, but maybe a slice, a little bit, maybe. I don't know. Something to keep, that was one of the things I wanted to bring up that we should keep in mind. If we can stop the main thing or adjust the main thing, maybe we can at least get them to clean up some of their mess that's been backed up into our, and probably all the other towns have the same issues. But especially in the Cove and in that one little area up near Bradley and Greylock intersection.
Basically kind of north of the river of Columbia Mill.
You got it.
Yeah.
It's a problem. It's problematic, and it creates drainage problems for Greylock Street.
Well, the road flooded there not too long ago, right? I think it was just last year.
So that was just an aside that was in my mind on things that we should maybe think about. A couple other things is to come out of that is to brainstorm with the townspeople is what kind of, as Ms. Leahy brought up, what kind of subcommittees should we maybe have? Campaign writing to our state representatives, our federal government. I know, Monica, did you actually show up down to the caucus? Great, good for you. So, it was interesting because I was online with it. So, and again, this is going to come back to this, but at the Democratic convention, I heard a lot of people throwing around the terms environmental justice. So we will be having a change in state government within the year, from December and into January. And with these particular candidates, I want to put their feet to the fire before the election, and maybe even before the primary, to say, well, if you're such, if you're all for environmental justice, where are you? And why aren't you out here helping us fight this thing? Right. So just one more thought, letter writing to them, but maybe, again, I may reach out independently as a citizen to do that anyway, because I have all their contact info now, about 500 times each, as Monica, I'm sure will attest to. We got more emails and robocalls. But yeah, I think we need make it more of just a Berkshire County issue.
I agree. Which I'm saying this is sort of stream of consciousness thing. Yeah. But if when we do this public meeting, I think what we should do is have available the names, addresses, and phone numbers of all of our representatives, including the federal ones, because the EPA is obviously a federal entity, but so that we can hand it out. And then people have to get off their duffs and actually do something. Make those phone calls, send those emails, write those letters.
I agree. Well, that was just one of the things I thought of for the brainstorming. I don't know what other subtype groups, and those maybe we could do with just one of us attending, to sort of lead a group, and then come back and report, rather than necessarily being, tying us all up. It just might be easier to do. Is that a call from an extraterrestrial being or what?
That was
shut it off.
Okay.
That was a radio signal from Woods Hole.
Exactly. Okay, so there's that.
My hope, and just to speak on that a little briefly, is my hope is that we can, during this whole forum, people can come and say, I'd like to be a part of this letter writing campaign, or that group that's doing this, or that sort, so that we can kind of hash all this out together, and then kind of build that. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Well, those are, I mean, I have a couple other things here, but
Yep.
for now, I think, that sort of gets us started. I think I would like to keep this on the agenda for next month also, or next, our next meeting, to keep it always in the forefront of what we're gonna be talking about.
Sure.
And maybe now we'll get feedback from the public individually, so we can bring it to the table as a group. But that's kind of where I was headed, to try and figure out where we can go, and what our best stance is. And I think if we get you, now that you are appointed to the Rest of River, I think I would certainly encourage you to get hold of whomever you have to get all the minutes. If we don't have all the minutes of that group, we may only have minutes, executive session minutes from when Pat ever came back and maybe met with the other folks. But I think now with you there, you need to get those executive minutes, look at what you can share with us and what you can't. But I think that would be important for you to reach out and possibly do that
Absolutely.
now that you're going to be our representative. Not to tell you what to do or how to handle
No,
yourself.
no, of course, yeah, I'll stop
but,
and see you tomorrow, Chris.
yeah.
For some-
And Cindy, you have a box of stuff for Gordon to.
Yeah.
I've got
It'll
just
be in
got
the
to put it in
office.
order.
Yeah.
Yep.
I guess for now, maybe that's enough to talk about at this meeting right now, but I did want to bring up this environmental justice language that was getting thrown around everywhere. And, from the, not just the Democratic, front runner for governor, but every single lieutenant, district attorney, every one of them hit this note. And so, let them put their mouth where their actions where their mouth is, if possible.
Gordon, if I might
Yes.
be, so the state has different environmental justice
I
areas
know.
within town.
Yeah.
We do have one in Lee. I can get you more information about it.
That'd be
I
great.
have the details on it, and it has to do more with income, actually, why
Yeah, no, I get that.
we qualify for one, but I can share that with the whole board. I can email that to you. So,
and-
the details of it.
And given our history with what happened to us, and I know that there was an attempt, and I'm sorry I couldn't have stayed at that town meeting, because I would have advised everybody that they were in for a big deflate about no PCBs in town. But because there is the state law that they came back about, is we have a lot of industrial land. And as long as you have zoned industrial land, they can have a transfer station and have hazardous waste and whatnot as a transfer area and storage. And what I was going to suggest is perhaps we should request, and this will lead into another thing with the planning board, is to review, because we have very antiquated industrial zones. We have industrial zones going up to Goose Pond because they had a manufacturing
It was a
thing
big
there.
manufacturing, yeah.
So they did a good thing,
now
but now we have to look at the reality, and maybe it should be rural business. Maybe it should be conservation residential. I think we
Yeah,
need
mixed
to get them to
residential or
look at
something, yeah.
issues
Yeah.
throughout the town, and especially over in the Woods Pond area, that area. A lot of that shouldn't, who's going to build an industrial industry is gone out of Berkshire County, and we're not going to see it again. So maybe it should go back to, an RA zone, which is, or a CR zone. But I think that we need to task the planning board as a select board, we need to task them with reviewing some of these
That's a good
antiquated
idea.
zones. And before we get yet some other group who wants to come in and do something that we can't foresee at the moment, but let's get our I-zone in order so that we don't have to deal with that issue. So just a thought, I think that
That's a
maybe we
good
can
idea.
take that up at some point. I will, I was going to bring it up later, but I am an alternate on the planning board. I will be resigning from that now that I'm on this board, because I don't think anybody should be on all those boards. And I'm also going to go off the ZBA. I know I talked to you about it, Ann. I know. Back in the day, we could not get volunteers in this town to get on all our boards. Maybe this has awakened people enough so somebody will step up and try and volunteer on some of our volunteer boards, like the planning board alternate. We do have an alternate on the zoning board of appeals who may or may not wish to step up. I don't know, but I think we need to advertise, again, make a plea to people who want to be on our planning board and zoning board of appeals especially. I'll get into the other things later.
Let's talk about that in our next agenda. Let's just kind of go back here.
Mr. Chair, if you want, I do have a quick update.
Go ahead.
On, just that has to do with Rest of River.
Sure.
So just wanted to share with the board the latest things that the proposed site, the UDF, or Upland Disposal Facility site, as they call it. I did mention the 2 dam inspections happening, and then the most recent things are installation of groundwater monitoring wells and soil borings for geotechnical and chemistry analysis has been started, and then also sampling the Reach 5A floodplain, and that is considered a 5A non-residential floodplain exposure area is what they're calling it, but they have started doing sampling there. Also, the U.S. Geological Survey doing a stream water gauge downstream of the Woods Pond Dam, and then a second round of baseline monitoring of surface water samples along 8 stations on the river. So that's the latest information I have from.
And who's doing that work, Chris? Is that GE or the EPA?
So let's see. The USGS is doing the stream water, and the EPA is doing the sampling. But it does say that GE is collecting the second round of the baseline monitoring samples.
There it is.
So.
There it is.
So can we get copies of that for us?
Yep, and then this is all online too, so.
Yeah.
So
I just thought if that's an email to you, it would be great if you could forward it to us.
Chris, can I get that too for the minutes?
Yep.
Thank you.
So, back to the public forum, but yeah, thank you for Chris. Would the idea, we'll keep this on the agenda for next meeting, would the idea be to then maybe potentially have a date to call a public forum at that point?
Yeah,
Is that kind of the idea?
Sure.
Going forward?
Yep, maybe we'll hear back and see what attorneys are available, including our own, which we should be able to.
Should be able to wrangle him.
I would say so.
Yeah, sorry, Claire, I know you raised your hand earlier, if you could be brief.
Tomorrow, when you're going on your little tour, find out how many trees are going to be taken down. You're talking about flooding at the Cove, and there is a program, iTree. For every tree you take down, it'll tell you what it will do to your stormwater runoff. So you've got to find out how many trees are they taking down up there, and ask them what they're going to do as far as cutting and felling, so they have this area to dewater, because they've ended up saying that they'll probably use all 75 acres, 25 for the dump, and the rest of it is looked at as preparatory. So
well, I think that's what Gordon was getting at with his, because we have some industrial zones, they can use it as a toxic transfer station, which that is in the agreement actually, because all of the higher level material that is getting trucked out of state has to be dewatered somewhere, it has to be, loaded on trucks and all that. So I think that's what their plan is to do with that material as well. And on various sites, I think Canoe Meadows is one site. They're definitely going to have a transfer sort of dewatering site at the dump site, and then I believe other sites.
I'm just saying that, and that's all, again, part of our open space plan, to be careful about tree cutting and steep slopes because of the erosion and the chance of, they should be looking at what's the 100-year floodplain. Climate change. There's a whole, there's all kinds of programs now that you can take into consideration and predict climate change and what effect it will have on flooding down the line.
All right.
So I just don't think, I think we've asked in public forums with GE and EPA about climate change and if they're taking that into consideration. And I don't think they ever gave us an answer on that. So if we can find out something about that, that would be great. And there was just one more thing, but I can't remember.
Thank you.
So I guess, is there anything further about the rest of her? Oh, Claire remembered.
I'm sorry. You all saw the big spread in the Eagle that Dick Lindsay put in. And I haven't had anybody comment about that. And what I saw came out of that was the nice little side pocket he did on the side, the gray area, nice little box, about how many people felt that to do nothing to the river was the best. You know, that's the lack of education. They have no idea. First of all, they don't realize it's not an option.
Right.
And that's kind of how the article got slanted. And of course, everybody warned me, don't go into an interview with this particular reporter, but I always loved Dick Lindsay. He's a friend from way back. So I just think it's a great opportunity for letters to the editor to, I was trying to open the conversation when I agreed to that. And I think it was good to bring in all the different opinions, and it was just our local neighborhood. So if we could get some letters of support for some of the good things that he said from other people, other than just the neighbors.
You know, he's got to write what people wrote. They don't understand that not to touch the river is not going to
You know,
happen.
you have to clarify a little bit what's happening.
Thank you.
I've written my letter, but it probably won't get published.
Okay. Discussion on the public forum.
Well, that's kind of what we were doing.
Yeah, that's,
right
I'm just
now.
wondering,
Yeah.
do we want to continue?
I think we put let's set a date, not tonight, but for the next meeting.
Absolutely.
Set a date for a public forum, because that will help me discern my marching orders a little more clearly.
That makes sense. That makes sense for you. Okay.
We'll make sure that's on the agenda.
What's that?
We'll make sure that's on the agenda.
Yeah, please,
Yeah.
because I think it just needs to stay there. We got to keep it in the public forefront,
I agree.
you know? Other people may get bored with it, but we got to do it. You got to put it out there.
Following through with your promise.
I told you we were going to do
Thank you,
it.
Gordon. I'll rename myself now.
I don't know.
That's no fun.
Are you talking about an educational forum? So that
No, it's not, well, it could be a little bit of that, but not really.
this is a perfect opportunity, and something like Gail's slides, PowerPoint, things that will help people understand and put on CTSV, so.
Yeah.
Well, that could be one of the options that we talk about doing, you know. And you may want to put it on CTSB anyway, you know, make up a little thing, you know. We don't use that very often, I think, enough.
She's right there, she'll help you.
There you go.
Just from the spirited debate, I'm sure that there's be a lot that happened here tonight. I'm sure there'll be a lot of people that show up to this forum, and I'm sure we'll have a lot of educational stuff being thrown around, and I'm sure that it's going to be a multiple night event, so.
Yeah. And we need ideas, you know. I don't know, you know, I have a certain set that I'm comfortable with, and I'm sure Bob has a set of ideas and concepts that he's comfortable with, but we need to mix it up.
Yeah.
You know, we need to know other people's ideas so that we can inform ourselves and you know, and maybe we'll come up with some great, you know, ideas together, but that none of us have thought of. But if we don't have the meeting, then we're not going to even know. So.
Absolutely.
And also, whether it's the meeting or we talked about letters, it's important that we get as many people as possible. Then I make the mistake all the time. I say, there should be letters in the Eagle every day. And I say, every day I say that. But what I don't do is walk up and say, Kathy, I need you to write a letter.
Yeah, there you go.
You know, and so same with this meeting. When this meeting is set, you have to go out, we have to go out and make sure that there are people there. So we know what's going on, and so that we create a spirit of community, and we all get everybody's kind of a different opinion about something. We all have to get on the same page as to how to move forward here to save ourselves and the future generations in this town. We got to do it now.
Very well. All right, moving on. Next, we're going to discuss receiving updates from other boards, committees, organizations. So I believe Gordon asked for this, but this was something that I was interested in trying to happen, you know, this year, so yeah, I would absolutely. Do you want
Well, we
to-
kind of started many years ago having some people just come in, like one member of a committee, because you don't want to have otherwise I have to post their meeting. So you have to be careful how you do this. But we have, like planning board, zoning board of appeals, DPW, conservation. How about just once, maybe with some of the smaller groups, you could entertain 2 people every time, but get them on camera, because some people, they don't even know what they can volunteer for. And again, I'm a big one for trying to push people to volunteer and get active. And there are so many things going on in this town, and so many boards and commissions.
Yeah, there's a lot of appointments that this board can make.
That's right. And it used to be, similar to when we had district reps, when we had so many open seats, and nobody would run. And we have school committee, that nobody ran for one of the seats this year. It's like, are you kidding me? How can people?
It's a very important board.
How can people not want to be involved in their community? Somehow or another, it hasn't. Maybe some area of it, they think, oh, planning. I'm not good at that. I can't even think my way through those regs. Okay, don't volunteer for the planning board, but how about volunteering for something else? Because I just did a quick list of people we could have in and talk to us. Was planning board, DPW, conservation, zoning. They are, cultural council, what are they up to? Are they at a point where they're going to disperse funds yet? How do we get to know that? I don't know that and I'm not bashing our town website, but I think our town website can be much more active, and maybe we should have email distribution, like constant comment distributions for some of these things, so let people know what's going on. We can talk about that separately. But, we have the agricultural committee and commission. What are they doing? Youth commission, parks and rec, recycling, which is now the greener, Monica, you've been involved with them for years, I know. We have the historic commission, LYA, and even so far as to reach out to the chamber, like he came tonight, but what are you doing? What are the issues in front of, what are the things that you need help with? How can we help you as a community and as a board? Because if we don't know what they need, or, I know they always come and say, well, we need money to water the plants and do this. Okay, but what else can we do for you? Maybe redo some of our sign bylaws, again, to make it easier for businesses, or, change some of the zoning locations. I know, is it really critical to have a DCBC zone and a CBC zone anymore, where you have different requirements and all it is turning a bend in the street? It's like, why? Why did we look at it that way? There was probably a reason. But have a discussion with that kind of thing.
Is that reason still applicable?
Yeah, I'm not so sure it is. And, with some, for a while you couldn't have a drive-through, and you couldn't have, things like this. But I just think that and I just touched on some, there's got to be more, that I just quickly wrote this down while I was thinking about it this afternoon, that we need to get people to know that, gee, maybe the historic commission, that sounds kind of cool. Maybe I do want to get involved with that. But if they don't know what they're doing, or what they can do for us, then who would know how to volunteer for it? I mean, I know Ms. Lang must have.
Yeah, I know the historical commission is right in the middle of doing the historical property inventory. It's a very fascinating thing. Go ahead, Ann.
Yeah. It is, you're right.
Off topic, but before you guys end the meeting, if this is your last thing on the agenda.
It's not.
No, there's more.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So, over the past several years, there's been more and more use of the backside of Laurel Lake. I can't think of the life of me, and I'm there every morning. I watch the eagles, I look at the birds, take pictures. Yes. What is that road that goes from Highland?
Laurel Lake Road, I think. I think it actually is Laurel Lake Road.
Okay. So over the past several years, there has been a tremendous increase with the amount of families, little kids. Also with that has been a group of kids in the age range of 18 to 30.
Yeah, right.
Okay? They are throwing out the window a tremendous amount of trash. It's horrible. We pick it up every time we go. But my main concern is these young people are speeding so fast, and I have watched someone have to grab their child, and we need something to slow them down. Is it possible for us to look into a speed bump on either end, ones that can be removed, so that it's just there for the summertime to slow these kids down. Someone is gonna get hurt.
Well, Stockbridge does it on Elm Street every year, you know, when you go down there, they have the ones that just nail into the ground and they take
They're
them out in the
removable,
winter.
so that you don't have to
Yeah.
hit them with your plows and stuff. You
I don't know who to approach, whether you go to DPW, through you guys, through Chris.
Check it out.
So you're saying we don't have a traffic commission anymore?
Right, yeah.
Well, that's something that maybe we need to
Maybe-
get together again.
Well,
I know
yeah.
many of the members who used to be on it. It's like, why did it get disbanded, or just people, did anybody say, we need volunteers? You know, it's like, we need to get it out there, because they would also be somebody who would help us with that.
Right. But for now, who can we go to get this in motion?
I would think, certainly starting with the chief, we could have a discussion. I was gonna talk to him anyway, because I've had already several complaints coming down Housatonic Street, when people get off the Pike, and I've probably been guilty of it when I drove the Pike all the time. You know, you get used to driving X amount of speed,
And
you get
come
off on a
there,
country
bike
lane, and it's
fast,
like
yeah.
down 102, you know, it looks like.
Even rumble strips to wake people up?
Yeah, well, yeah, you want to do that, but you know, what was suggested is, because our speed limit is 35 coming from the Pike down, like, I'm just talking about Housatonic Street now, then it changes at the corner to like 25, and it's like, I think Stockbridge and other towns I've noticed are having pretty good effect on their traffic with those signs that just say, hey, you know, you're going too fast, you know, thanks for driving carefully. And maybe, I don't even know if we own one.
We do have, there's some, it's been moving around, it was on East Street.
Well, they put up permanent ones.
Fairview
There's
Street.
permanent ones by the school. By the school, and
We
like
have
you'd
one
said-
portable one.
Yeah, like you said, they
Well,
have some
maybe
portable
we
ones.
need to invest in a few more.
Yeah, I
Maybe
think
one
that's
up
a great
where you're
idea.
talking about, near the Lake Bridge.
I don't think we
one
need
right
a
here.
sign.
Well,
I
we
think
need-
physical.
We need enforcement too.
Right, but
That we
those
talked to the chief about.
physical, deterioration
deterrence,
of, they have to slow down if there's a speed bump.
Even one in the middle, like, let's say not just each end, but one in the middle.
Sure.
I mean, it's a thought. Once you know it's there, you're gonna slow down.
Yes.
After the first
So
time.
you're
you
gonna
do that.
discuss that with the chief also?
I'm scheduled to meet with him. I met with the chief, fire chief already, and I'll let the board know about that after. I usually do it on matters not covered, which is coming up. Just to let them know what I've done. I don't want to do anything secretly without people knowing what I'm doing. But I was going to schedule, I saw the chief at the parade, and I just mentioned to him that I want to meet with him because I want to get caught up on some things that are going on in the background, design for new, you know, what do they need, how can we help you as a board, that kind of thing. And maybe even have him come in, the fire chief come in to explain what their needs are. And so that publicly, we, you know, I don't want to sit here and just come out someday and say, this is what we're gonna do, you know, I think we need to have them come in and explain it, people can digest it, and then come back with some recommendations and input from the public on all of this. Someday, we're gonna have to spend a lot of money on some upgrades, so let's do it in broad daylight, you know, from the very beginning, rather than go, well, how did we come up with this plan? You know, we need to talk sooner than that. But
So you're gonna also mention the two speed bumps?
I
for
will
me?
be happy to do that.
Thank you.
Okay,
Appreciate you covering that.
no problem, as long as everybody has no problem with me doing that.
No
I actually ran into Craig today and we talked for quite a while.
Oh,
and
great.
He's very cognizant of everything we just talked about.
Good.
So
Great.
he really does know, he's on top of it. So
Super.
it's good that you're meeting with him.
Okay, you're good with
I
that.
think his biggest problem is staffing at this point. To not to speak for him, but yeah, we're definitely having some issues filling.
Well, it's police reform.
Yeah, that's
It's
a big.
killed the accessory officer, the part-time officer.
Right, and that has, I mean, yeah, we're gonna feel it in our wallets, you know, as a town, as the taxpayers for sure. We're gonna be paying for more in the police budget going forward because
We
of
are
those
still have
things.
positions trying to fill
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. I think, is it 2 or 3?
Three.
Is it
Three.
3? Yeah.
3 with a school resource.
School resource, which so there's a lot, I'm sure you'll have a fun discussion
If the
with.
board would like, I'd be happy to reach out to the committee chairs to get them
I was
scheduled.
just gonna say
one
that,
or two
yeah.
each meeting if
Yeah.
you would like. And we can get
And
that.
Chris,
You guys are okay with that? I don't know, you know.
absolutely. And Chris, I'm wondering if, as part of this, you can, and I think we even have this, because I remember us talking about this maybe last year or maybe before. Excuse me. Hey, guys, we're still conducting business here, so sorry. You can keep it down. What was I saying? Yes. I think we have like some sort of a running tally of like, where are the open seats on these boards?
Yeah,
you
so
know what I
there's
mean? That
actually
sort of thing.
two things that, that Cindy's been working on the list, which will hopefully be on the next agenda, which will be the list of all of the boards and what reappointments need to be made for this fiscal year. The other is actually, I have I'll be sharing it with you guys soon, a draft board and committee guide that would like to bring to the board to adopt. It's about a 30-page document that talks about each of the committees, how they should be run, take minutes, open meeting law, things of that nature that somebody could pick up, and it's got all of the information for new members, what sort of committees are available, things of that. It can be online and in paper. But it serves two purposes. One, to see what's available, and for those that want to, the subheading of it is a volunteer guide for the town of Lee. One, to find out what's available and get more information about it for those that are interested. And the other purpose of it will be that once you're on a board, it's got information about where should meetings be held, how, open meeting law, how do I post agendas, things of that nature. So, reappointment schedules. So that should all be coming within the next, hopefully by the next meeting. So I also did want to just mention as well, for anyone that you had mentioned, the constant contact, which we don't have, but and I have mentioned this in other areas, but I'd like to share it whenever possible. Our website does have at the top a sign up where you can check off certain boxes for notifications too. So anybody from the public can do that, and whenever we post a news item, it sends it out to them.
Okay, good.
So,
I didn't know it was there, and I've been to the website, how many times? Because I didn't read very well.
We should
see it, yeah. Yeah, please. If you could, please.
All right, Steve Handel, I'm with Janice here, 35 Church Street. I didn't know that, but I was going to say, when you brought this up earlier, would make it really work. You want to get information out to people, you should have them do, I don't know, could be monthly, could be quarterly, all these departments.
Yep.
A simple one-page, let's say, sheet. I'm thinking about this because I do it, I was in software development, we had to do this every week.
Yeah.
You talk about, what did we accomplish during this time period? A few bullets. What were the blockers? What couldn't we accomplish because of so-and-so? Another department, we need to get involved. We didn't have access, whatever it is. And then the third thing would be, what are we working on the next period? Whatever that period is. And people would quickly, and then as they check off those boxes, let's say you require that every month or every quarter, you send those out automatically to all those people that indicated they have interest. You have it on the website where they can look at it, anyone can look at it, and you push it out via an email.
If that was put in a news section.
Yeah, like I call it a newsletter.
That would be, So
a monthly or quarterly newsletter.
With our current.
It really works well, I think. I think about, I access the New York Times. There's 20 categories. I click on things every morning. I get an email on politics, theater, finance, whatever I want. But it requires you to make those groups write a status report. And you got to think of what period makes sense. But it's really a good way to get information out. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Do we have someplace, assessor's office or someplace that collects people's email addresses as a routine?
Wouldn't the clerk have a lot of that?
Yeah, so emails are not collected in any of the things.
That's fine, I just didn't know. Yeah.
So the occasionally they can be, there's an option when you're doing voter registration, but very seldom does anybody give that out.
Yeah, I can see why.
So even with, so we could, and I actually did put it in one of the information about it in one of the tax bills, and we can do that again, make it a little more prominent. The easiest way with that is for people to subscribe on their own through the site.
Well, maybe we just need to
because of privacy.
People. Yeah, you need to remind people they can do that because I as I said, I've been on the site many times. I guess I'm looking for something, so I blow right by that. I don't even really see it. So maybe we can make it more prominent or whatever if they want to receive updates on what's happening, and then give them an option to unsubscribe too if they want.
Our easiest way I found to do that, and we've used this a couple of times, is when the next real estate bills go out.
Sure.
And it was in part of another little newsletter we did, but we can make it more focused on that, so.
No, water sewer goes out 4 times a year.
Yeah, we could do it on that too, so.
I'm just saying, that's
yeah.
something that's consistently
Yeah.
going out to most everybody.
So,
So, all right,
yep.
just a
We
thought.
included in those a little colored sheet, so.
Okay, so Chris, you're gonna go ahead and reach out to the chairs of the different boards and committees and.
Yeah, we
just
can
kinda
schedule them
put 'em-
out through the.
Yeah, just slate,
Yep.
1, 2 at a time or whatever, however it sort of shakes out. I'll let you, have freedom on that, All right, does anybody have any further
Oh,
discussion?
you have community center.
Yeah, I'm
Oh,
just
I'm
on
sorry,
the, on
not on
the,
this. Sorry
yeah,
about
on the
that.
boards
Yep.
and committees. Nope. Next, Kathy, thank you for being so patient
Yeah.
tonight.
She would be here anyway.
Because next, last meeting you came here and you asked us, you asked us for guidance, right? This board to give the youth commission some guidance in regards to the community center that failed town meeting vote and whether to continue to pursue, correct? Basically, do you want to add anything to that before?
No, it's just, people have stopped me on the street and said, "You're not giving up, are you?" And I'm like, "No," and I let them know that there's a meeting tonight and that, you're gonna respond to our request of how do we move forward? So that's why I'm here. How are we gonna move forward?
That is a great question, and I guess I don't have a very simple answer. I mean, you could keep bringing it back to every town meeting, but I think, as largely as that failed, I think that would be the wrong approach. And it pains me too, because personally, I think you did do a great job with everything. I think that you came to the right sort of size project for the town. It was in the middle, it wasn't the whole thing that everybody wanted from the survey results. Didn't have everything, but it was a very substantial and would have turned into a great facility and potentially, just site up there. And so, yeah, I think it's really bittersweet, but I mean, I think they both voted on it too, so they would probably agree with me that the dollar amount was just too much and we couldn't burden the taxpayers with that. And I think that would be probably the same to say that this year, probably the next year, and I don't know at what point it would be appropriate to take on a project of this size, I guess, is I don't have a great direction or a place for you to go. So I don't know if Gordon or Bob want to.
I agree with Sean that the cost was, we all know that. The other one concern that kept coming up was location.
Right.
That location was not ideal. I know we own it, but people couldn't make the reach to they couldn't wrap their heads around that
Right.
location. Okay, but what I got thinking about was what was somewhat lost, because I was somewhat lost, is if we're going to talk about something in the future. If you're talking about whether it's a basketball court or meeting rooms or a place that could be rented out for functions or a pool or anything, I'm wondering whether if it wouldn't be beneficial to take each of those things and explain to people why those would be beneficial to the community and to them personally. And I mean, you've gone on, you mentioned the basketball courts many times and the need for it.
Right.
For me, I don't have any kids who play basketball, and I take your word for it, I do. But I think if I had a better understanding of it, with some factual information, we have so many kids, You know, they're not able to do this, they're not able to do that. I know about it because you're here every week. You were here for months, every week. But I think to get it out to the voters, and particularly now the voters, because now it's not town reps anymore, it's everybody.
Right.
And so I think I would ask you to just give that some thought. And if you made it more focused on the individual facets of whatever you're going to propose, and explain why each one of them collectively would make a difference.
As far as I'm concerned, I think that one thing I would hope that your group would do is go ahead and look at non-town-owned land. I think that's important. You know, I know I had mentioned Greylock Mill at one point in time, which I think the town should be looking at anyway, because I don't believe that that's going to go forward in its current iteration of what the current owners wanted to do eventually. But, you know, that's one place to look. The other is, I think the town has to we are about to take a good hard look at, you know, a public safety type thing, like how are we going to move forward with fire and with police and with, you know, that kind of thing. But in thinking of that and how much money is it going to cost us, well, we're about to finish up some bonds. School's going to be paid down soon, and that bond, you know, we won't be paying on that bond, and also the sewer treatment plant bond is going to be ending within the next 3 to 4 years, I would think. If I remember right, I used to check with Bob all the time.
Yeah, so there's.
How much longer have we got? How much longer have we got?
I think it's 2027 on the, I believe, I don't have it right in front of me on the sewer, but the last year on the school. The only thing with the school, while it's an $800 and some $1,000 bond, more than half of that comes back to us from the state.
I get it, yeah.
So it's not like we're taking 800,000 off, it's more like 300,000 or 400,000.
It's okay.
Which is still a significant amount, but
still money.
it's just important to note that the state's kicking in a portion of that, so.
It's just, I think that, you know, I was just looking to see when things would be freed up a little bit more for us to be able to, you know, bite the bullet on something a little bigger. I know sewer treatment plant, that's user fee based anyway, not tax based, you know, based. Same with the water system. But I guess I would be looking for that kind of thing, like let's see what we have got to do, but looking at our town. I know one time when Price Chopper was they actually were going to swap some things off, and they were going to take down the Araldi building and the Bullseye Pub and the Quonset Hut, give us enough money to build a new DPW down near the water treatment plant or sewer treatment plant. And then, you know, we just had a lot of balls in the air. That's why we actually ended up with the Bullseye Pub originally, was we thought we were heading down that road for developing that set. Well, maybe we need to look at something like that for a community center. If we don't need it for a fire, I was talking to the chief, and he has more than an idea of infilling. You know, get rid of the ambulance garage, sort of an infill from the current fire over to that area with their needs. They could fit it all right in one property that we already own. So maybe that frees up some other property. Just freewheeling thinking, and I probably shouldn't say this out loud, but I even thought about, as far as the Eagle Mill goes, they aren't going to build that hotel anymore, or they don't think it's feasible. What about seeing if we can talk to Mr. Cohen about, because they had like 80 parking places and 2 buildings they were going to tear down. What about talking to them about seeing if they'd be willing to sell some of that and do either community center with parking, or, you know, we have to look at opportunities where we can see them. I know, I don't even know if the Price Chopper property is still under contract with the guys from Great Barrington. They may or may not be.
There's a land court issue going on with that.
I'm not surprised.
I spoke with them a few months ago, and not to get into the details, but there is some hold up with that. The one thing with the public safety, if that public safety was merged into one building,
complex,
and the Araldi building was no longer needed, that Araldi building / Bullseye area is a town-owned land.
And that's what I had thought originally once the Price Chopper thing went away. We thought, well, maybe that's the place where we'll go with the public safety center, would be get rid of the Bullseye, either tear down the Araldi building, add to it, utilize it the way we can, put a second story on it, whatever we have to do, because I really believe we shouldn't lose all the parking. We need to have parking for our downtown, because as it is now, you know.
But that whole area needs to be
And these
updated
are
anyway.
rethought.
Yeah.
Well, and what I'm getting at with that is the public safety probably wouldn't go there because it's floodplain, and we may
Some
not
is.
want to put a public safety building that could be prone
No,
to flooding,
I
but it
agree.
could be, not that the community center should
No.
be flooded either,
No.
but if you had to make a choice, that is a potential spot, that could be for, who knows? It's
Right.
only in a feasibility study phase now, it's
Right.
nothing that's gonna happen tomorrow, but.
Right, and
but-
just thinking about non-town property, I'm like, okay, now you're talking about spending anywhere from 400,000, which to me isn't realistic, it's more like 1 million or so for property, and then you want to build something on top of that type of
Right.
thing. So we're kind of thinking, well, what if there's like a building up for sale?
Right.
To be able to purchase that building, to at least have a community room, game room,
Right.
something like that.
Yeah.
We've talked about and actually did some research for adding on to the high school. But I mentioned that before, the football players don't want to lose their practice field.
I understand.
It's sacred, but anyways, but, that might have been a feasible thing. It'd be a real tight fit, but nonetheless, it might be doable. So that's already town-owned there. And if we bought property somewhere else where there's already a building
Yeah.
on there and just renovate,
Sure.
whatever's there. But the question is, how do we do that when we don't have any money to say we
Yeah.
want to purchase this?
Right. Well, I think one issue is you do the research, you go and approach people and see if they're even interested in talking to you. If they're interested in talking, I think that's the point when you come back and we say, okay, can we talk to the finance? Because there are some things that we can switch around with just the Board of Selectmen and Finance Committee. Obviously, we're not going to approve a $12 million project or something.
No.
But for a research, or there may be money somewhere that we could talk, or we go back and have a special town meeting. If it's really active and a good deal, might be well worth having a special town meeting and going through the cost of putting one on. But until you talk to someone, or the
Right.
group talks to somebody to see that they're really interested in
Right.
working with the community, then, I think that's the first step.
I think the other thing that I would say, Kathy, but it's hard to do without having an appropriation, is that how do you, what other sources of funds would be available, or could you sort of seek out to help fund this project, That might be worth some investigation.
Yes.
I'm not sure again, because with a lot of grants and those sorts of things, the town needs to actually buy in order for us to even
Right.
be able to
Right.
apply for those sorts of things. But, there might be something there to
Right,
discover.
there could be something out
I don't
there
know.
that says, tell us what your thoughts are.
Yeah.
And, we have X amount of money that you could present to your town to see if they could match it, or whatever the case may be, or federal funding as well as
Grants.
state funding.
I thought you do have some money left, right? That's
We do
going to
in the
encumber and
feasibility,
roll
yes.
over into the next fiscal
Yes.
year. So was that around 20,000 or so? I thought I
Yes,
remember
it's a
at town
little
meeting.
less than 20,
So there's
yeah.
something there that
Yes.
at least it's not chicken feed.
No,
It's
right.
something. But anyway, I don't
Janice?
want to talk over.
I think the perfect spot she should have bought, what we should have bought, is where the liquor store is across from
Yes.
Starbucks.
Oh
You
yeah.
got that?
Yeah.
And then you got the athletic field right behind
Oh.
you,
Right.
which you could
Yeah.
probably do some sort of building down there too.
You're right, Janice, but unfortunately, that ship has sailed.
Yeah.
Maybe not. You never know. Buy it back.
Is the former Housatonic Cafe, is that still up for sale?
Where?
It's right,
What?
the former Housatonic Cafe, it's right in front of the athletic field.
Oh,
I think it's probably not big enough as a property, but
I know that I drive that way all the time, and yeah, there's definitely a sign, that for sale sign up
Yeah.
there.
Because maybe that would be feasible in terms of having like a community room, game
Yeah.
rooms, in an indoor activity, like especially during the winter.
Yeah.
Well, I think one thing to keep in mind also is you don't have to do it all at once.
No.
I mean, like you just said, if you get a building, you can always, start, and then you can add on, almost like a modular addition type, not
Right,
modular
right.
necessarily, but you know what I mean? You can do it in chunks as we can, as the town progresses and as we, can work with our tax
Right.
base and within our limits.
Right.
You might have trouble fitting a basketball court on that site.
Right, yes, yeah. Well, that's why I didn't pursue asking the question beforehand, because I knew we
Yeah.
couldn't do the
Yeah.
But I'll tell you where we could fit a basketball court, and that's at the garage of the DPW.
Yeah?
I went in there and I looked at it, I said, this is perfect, get those trucks out of there. We're all
Well,
set.
maybe we should look at building a new DPW building
There we
and then
go.
take over the Quonset hut and the
Right.
Raldi building and connecting them in some way, and, we might be well on our way. We just have to think outside the box, think outside the box.
Right.
And by talking about it here, maybe somebody sitting at home will go, hey, I got an idea,
Right,
and let them get hold of us. We need the
Absolutely.
community input.
yeah. So we're gonna keep on trucking, we're gonna keep looking, we'll
Great.
keep coming back and letting you know what we find out or what we're doing. In the meantime, if you think of something, give us a call or tell us at the next meeting, whatever,
Sure.
is feasible. And, we're not gonna let it go, because we know it's something that's needed in the town, the people do want it. They don't wanna pay the high amount of money, which I knew as soon as Barry Dunn gave us a quote and Pike Company gave us a quote, I went, not gonna happen, not gonna happen, especially with the other amounts of money, $10 million for the school and that kind of stuff, so, and I'm not one to say, don't give it to the schools, I'm gonna say, give them more, let's
Right.
get that nanotech and biotech in our curriculum. But at any rate, thank you so much, and we'll
Thank you.
keep on trucking, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Kathy.
Good luck to you, Kathy. That brings us up to pending business, which we have none, and next is the town administrator. Chris?
So a few things to update the board about. We do have revenue expense and expense reports for the period ending on May 31st available in your office. We also, I did the Rest of River updates, which was on there earlier. The MVP grant that the board met on a couple weeks ago, that has been submitted, so we're now just waiting for the decision on that, but it has been submitted. The master plan, the planning board, and you probably heard this at those of you at the planning board meeting, but they are going to be doing two things. They're going to be sending out information to current boards, other boards besides the planning board that would like to have a seat on the steering committee, and then Beth, the land use assistant, is going to be sending that to us for to post which will go out on an e-blast and on the website as well for any general community members that want to be on the steering committee. It is limited to 11 people in total on there, but it will be representatives from current boards and some, I guess, at-large members, if you will, so that's in progress. I did want to let the board know that we finally got approval after going back and forth for quite a while on the number. And we talked about Eagle Mill earlier, and I mentioned some of the money that the town will be getting. So we did get final approval on $200,000 that the state will be providing the town soon. I don't know the exact date, but within the next month or so. And that's for just adopting the smart growth overlay district to allow the affordable housing there. So that 40R grant will be coming for $200,000. It is restricted to capital projects, but there is a lot of opportunity within that capital project. It can't offset our operating budget, but can be used towards capital. So we'll get the $200,000 now. Once a building permit is issued, we'll put in for another $184,000, which they consider a density bonus payment, which is so much per unit. So we had to send a lot of stuff to the state for that 200 because it was questioned. The plans had changed a few times and so forth, and it was all relevant on how many affordable housing units would be in there. But we did get a final approval on $200,000 for the town.
Where does that money come from?
From Department of Housing and Community Development.
EOHCD?
Yeah, correct, yep. And that's they consider it 40R money. I also did want to let the board know that this coming Monday, we'll have a new employee. Wanted to welcome Samantha Lovett, who will be our new DPW administrative assistant. She'll be starting on Monday the 13th, so upstairs. Also,
when's Al's last day?
Friday.
Yep.
Friday, yep.
This week.
The timing is a little...
yeah, we didn't work out great for us, but yeah.
But we have made arrangements with the division supervisors to be working with her in the meantime. So, the last one, I did want to let the board know, so the board, both this board and the Board of Public Works, both expressed concern about the restamping of Housatonic Street crosswalks, which was sent to Mass DOT, again, Board of Public Works and Board of Selectmen opposing the restamping of that. They did respond saying that, thank you for the information, but we still want to restamp it. So I wanted to, I did let some of the, they are saying that they are going to do it perpendicular to before, which is supposed to make a quieter crosswalk. I did respond to some of the residents of Housatonic Street, letting them know that response, and I wanted to report back to the board as well. But I have reached out to some other people as well, but that's the latest from DOT on that. So,
Why are they so set on that particular style crosswalk now?
Yeah, I failed to see their logic in that too, but why not just paint it? But yeah, so I've reached out to some other people at the state. But that's the latest written response they sent us. So.
All right, thanks. Is that the last thing you read?
Yes, that's it.
Well, I was just going to ask, do we have any priorities we want to task Chris with, on top of everything else that we've just given him to do? No.
Chris, could you rescind the rest of the river?
That could be a really good move.
Yeah,
maybe by tomorrow.
All right,
yeah, tomorrow. We'll give you till tomorrow.
So, the only thing I was going to bring up during his section is I wanted to thank him for moving so quickly to get a town meeting video up on our website. I started to watch it. I couldn't stay for the whole thing, so I'm going to go back and finish it up. But it's like, I really appreciate that. I hope people realize, the general public realizes that it's there. And we'll push it when it gets closer to a town meeting time, but it's really, it's a great thing, and you did it in a hurry. So I appreciate it. I brought it up. You got it done right away, and I
You're saying that
that's great.
Educational video.
Yeah, the educational video for how a town meeting works.
How it all runs.
I mean, I think it's great, I think it's like 25 or 30 minutes long, something like that.
Yeah, there's two of them on there. One's like a little 5-minute sort of thing that kind of just gives you an idea what town, and then the other gets a little deeper.
It's a little more.
Along with that, we just met with a couple other departments today, and I'm glad you mentioned that. We are looking at the possibility of before our first real open town meeting to have a public forum of some type, if the board would like to just give people information where they can learn more about how it works. So,
will we be able to still do a baby town meeting? Because I thought that was so important when we had the reps to.
Yeah, I don't see any reason why
so many
not,
questions answered in an informal manner that you can really just kind of like go back and forth on.
And it could be combining both of those into one thing,
I suppose, yeah.
but or separate, either way. But there's a lot of things that we will need to look at with that, but.
Okay.
So, but something we have talked about as well. That.
Great. Anything else you guys, Bob, Gordon, want to?
No, so we're done with the business. I have this great quote that I found, and to end the meeting on a positive note. It's from Margaret Mead, the famed anthropologist, and she said, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has."
So, that's very true. I will, other than, well, I'll go into it next time. We'll end it on that positive note. How's that? I have nothing negative, but I think it'd be good. I'll just bring this up later.
Our next regular meeting is June 21st, 2022. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Then-